Morning, Chair.
I declare this meeting officially open. The agenda has been flagged before us. Do we see the agenda? Do we all see the agenda?
Yes,
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 Chairperson.
Thank you very
yes, we
much.
can see the
Yes,
agenda,
Chair.
Chair.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, the two departments, Department of Justice with National Prosecuting Authority, Department of Police, the Chief Whip of the Majority Party, ministers and deputy ministers, and everyone else on this platform, good morning. Today marks the second day of the 5 days declared yesterday by the Deputy President as the days for mourning and remembering all who succumbed to COVID-19 and gender-based violence and femicide. Deputy President said yesterday that, I quote, "Women can no longer live in substitute to men that have a disregard for their lives and their freedom." He went on calling all South Africans to wear a black armband, a ribbon, or any sign that signifies an act of mourning in order to demonstrate solemn respect to those who passed on. Calling all families, communities, and organizations to set up memorial corners where flowers, candle lighting, or any form of memorialization is observed to remember and honor those who has lost their lives. In Parliament yesterday, the ANC Caucus was having a launch of the concept document for the 16 days of activism, campaigning on no violence against women and children, organized by the Office of the Chief Whip and the Portfolio Committee for Women, Youth, and Persons with Disability, led by the chairperson, Honorable Ndaba, as the Honorable Ndaba and the collective. As this caucus, I believe that we are also saying no to gender-based violence and femicide. All the departments has been urged to implement the emergency response action plan on GBV. Believing that today the department before us will brief us on how they will be implementing Pillar 3, which also gives effect to Article 12, 13, and 15 of the Declaration of the Presidential Summit on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide. Believing that they are also going to brief us on how are they going to make sure that the rape kit is available in all police stations, how they are going to do training of professionals as part of intervention and support management, how are they going to eliminate the DNA backlog cases, implementation of the intermediaries or human resource, believing that maybe we can be privileged also about the Omontoso case. Now there is this one of the Bushiri one. Again, maybe the NPA can privilege us as this caucus as to why always when they go somewhere, media is before them. Who inform who and how? Is it how they operate or something is not right? Believing that they will also give us the report on the functionality of the Thutuzela Centres. Also the availability of the debriefing support mechanism for officials and victims of gender-based violence. Honorable members, I also want to appeal before we start with our meeting that let's all commit ourselves in making sure that we close our mics, or we switch off our mics, or we mute our mics if we're not afforded time to speak, for us to allow the speakers to speak and be heard by all of us. Honorable members, the agenda is before us. Can I have one to adopt the agenda?
Honorable Chairperson, the name is Honorable Judith Chabalala. I move for the adoption of the agenda.
Comrade Judith, thank you very much. Anyone to support or to second the
Nokolo
idea?
Abraham. Seconding. Nokolo Abraham, Chair. Seconding.
Thank you very much, honorable members. We are now proceeding with our program. Do we have any apologies, Secretary?
Yes, Chair. Good morning, Chair and members. We received 16 apologies from Ministers Lamula and Tlele, Ms. Kapa, Ms. Dlamini Zuma, Ms. Mkize, Ms. Bibi, Ms. Teke, Ms. Laviskachny, Ms. Christians, Boshoff, Ms. Visser, Ms. Motsecha, Ms. Didiza, Ms. Dianti, Ms. Glodlo, and Ms. Peters. Ms. Lucas, Chair, will join the meeting later. She's in a programming committee meeting, and Minister Zulu will leave the meeting early due to prior commitment.
Thank you very much, Mandy. We have 16 apologies. Do we accept the apologies, honorable members?
Honorable Chair, it's Honorable Chair.
Chair, whip.
Yes, it's Anita Nkomo, Chair. I move for the acceptance of apologies.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nkomo. But I would like also to state that it's like some of our executive, they usually bring in the apologies. They never been into this meeting, even a single day. I don't know if that also, we saying we don't have a problem with that. When somebody will keep on sending the apologies, instead of at least appearing once, because we do need these people. We do want to know more about what's happening in their departments. But thank you very much, honorable members. We're proceeding. The item now, I'll give it to the Department of Justice. I've seen that the DM is with us. And thank you very much, DM. You are committed to your work. Time and again, when this caucus wants the department, we are always available. Thank you very much. I will call upon the DM for Justice to brief us.
Thanks very much, Chair. I'm just going to give a short introduction, and then there will be the briefings from the different sections, the NPA and the South African Judicial Education Institute and the department. But it's fitting that we're having this briefing with the Multiparty Women's Caucus today, as we've launched the 5 days of remembrance and 16 days of activism campaign yesterday. South Africa, as everybody knows, will observe 5 days of remembrance from the 25th to the 29th of November for the victims of COVID and gender-based violence and femicide. As a nation, we're horrified every time a woman or child is raped or killed, but expressing our disbelief and condemnation is not enough. We need to ensure that concrete actions are taken to end the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide, and each of us has a role to play in this regard. We can no longer turn a blind eye to the cries of help from the most vulnerable in our midst. It is the responsibility of all of us to end the culture of silence around gender-based violence. Whether in our communities, in our schools, or in the workplace, we must all do what we can to promote and protect the rights of women and children. President Ramaphosa announced the Emergency Response Action Plan to deal with the scourge of gender-based violence. The ERAP sets out emergency action for government and civil society to speedily address this scourge. The President's announcement was an indication of the extent to which the scourge of GBVF has invaded our society and undermines our human rights culture as a nation. The plan calls for urgent measures to help combat and prevent gender-based violence, to strengthen the criminal justice system, and to enhance the legal and policy framework. It also focuses on ensuring adequate care, support, and healing for victims of violence. Government reprioritized 1.6 billion rand for the plan, which focuses on improving access to justice for survivors of violence and prevention campaigns to change attitudes and behavior. Government has increased the number of shelters and care centres for survivors and improved the capacity of our police to deal with crimes of gender-based violence and femicide. With regard to our sexual offences courts, in February this year, Section 55A of the Criminal Law Sexual Offences and Related Matters Amendment Act was signed into operation, meaning that for the first time, sexual offences courts will now be established in accordance with regulation. The regulation set out a catalogue of support services and resources that must constitute a Section 55A sexual offences court. These services include court support, court preparation, emotional containment, trauma debriefing, counselling, private testifying services, and intermediary services. Many people who watched the Omatoso case were outraged by how the witness, Cheryl Zondi, was treated during the proceedings. We are, by way of a legislative amendment, looking to extend intermediary services so that witnesses can in future testify via an intermediary and be spared any secondary trauma. Our sexual offences courts work closely with the National Prosecuting Authority's Thutuzela Care Centres, or TCCs. These are attached to specific hospitals and enable the victims of a sexual offence to receive treatment at the same time as evidence of the case is collected. The focus of the TCC model aims to ensure that a holistic, integrated service is provided to victims at these sites. We currently have 55 TCCs across the country and are planning to open 6 more. The new TCCs will be situated in Craddock, Paarl, Orange Farm, Ngwavuma, and Groblersdal, and we're awaiting feedback from the Department of Health regarding the placement of the 6th one, which will either be in Gauteng or the Northwest. The Emergency Response Action Plan also involves measures to strengthen the criminal justice process and to prioritize the creation of economic opportunities for women who are vulnerable to abuse. Why are economic opportunities and economic empowerment so important? And it's because inequality leads to discrimination, dependence, and abuse, particularly where the abusers are the breadwinners. As an example, when we looked at the 2018-19 domestic violence cases, what was most concerning was that most of the disposed matters, that's over half, 50%, were removed from the roll as withdrawn. Often victims do not want to proceed with such matters as the abuser will threaten to withhold money or food from them and their children. This also raises the issue of the payment of maintenance and how we engage with men and boys, again, around issues of gender-based violence. Patriarchy and toxic masculinity play a significant role in GBV. That's why it's crucial to address men and boys. Our department has embarked on a program called Under the Tree Dialogues. The aim of the dialogues is to vigorously engage with men and boys to change toxic attitudes and beliefs around masculinity and patriarchy that lead to violence against women and children. As honourable members will know from the previous meeting of the Multiparty Women's Caucus, we've made important progress in reforming our laws to give greater protection to survivors of domestic and sexual violence. And as you know, we've also introduced 3 amendment bills aimed at closing the gaps that allow perpetrators of gender-based violence to evade justice and to give full effect to the rights of the country's women and children. This caucus has made submissions on the bills to the Portfolio Committee on Justice and Correctional Services. For the purposes of today's proceedings, we've been requested to focus on 7 questions in our presentation, and these are: firstly, the measures taken and planned to manage and integrate criminal justice information systems. Secondly, the challenges and interventions required to ensure successful prosecution of sexual offences cases. Thirdly, the resources, that's funding, support personnel, and facilities required for the proper functioning of sexual offences courts. Fourthly, the training requirements to ensure that proceedings are victim-centred. ensuring that victims are not additionally traumatized. Fifthly, the management of cases, including backlogs and frequent postponement of cases. Sixthly, an overview of the specific challenges to effective functioning of Thutuzela Care Centres. And lastly, as well as resources, funding, support personnel and facilities needed to ensure that the above centres provide maximum support to victims. We will be covering the 7 areas by way of 4 presentations. Some of the presentations will span more than one area. And we have a high-level delegation, and the delegation is led by the Acting Director General of Justice, Ms. Kale Pillay, and the specific presenters are as follows. Firstly, the National Prosecuting Authority's Advocate Pierce Smith. He's the acting head of the Sexual Offences and Community Affairs Unit, or SOCA unit in the NPA. We'll begin the presentation by focusing on the interventions required to ensure the effective functioning of the sexual offences courts, the TCCs, and the progress made towards a victim-centred integrated criminal justice system. Secondly, the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development's Advocate Praise Kambula will focus on the National Strategic Plan with a particular reference to the resources, funding, support personnel and facilities required for the proper functioning of sexual offences courts. Thereafter, we will have a presentation on training, which will be done by Dr. Khomolemo Ushweo, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the South African Judicial Education Institute. And they are responsible for continuing judicial education to magistrates and judges in our courts. Training is important, especially if members take into account that Parliament has recently taken action against a magistrate who'd imposed inappropriate sentences in a number of sexual offences matters. Mr. Charles Muke from Justice College will be able to provide information on various training courses which they offer to clerks and court staff, as well as to the SAPS members who all work at the coalface of fighting GBV. They run a variety of courses, such as one on the practical understanding of the Domestic Violence Act, one on the Harassment Act, and another on the social context of GBV and others. And finally, we have a specific presentation on the measures taken as planned to manage and integrate criminal justice information systems, which will be presented by our IT specialist, Mr. Nicholas Munyai. We want to thank the Caucus for this opportunity to present here this morning. Violence against women affects all of us. Together, we hold the key to unlock the chains which hold so many women captive. If we may then, Chairperson, with your permission, proceed to the first presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DM. I think I will follow the sequence that you have given to us now. But I would like to ask all the presenters to firstly introduce themselves, because I only had a few names. I didn't get some of them. So I just want to urge them to first introduce themselves, then they proceed with their presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Minister, and good morning, Honourable Chairperson and Honourable members of the committee. I'm Advocate Pierce Smith. I'm assisted by my colleague, Ms. Lizelle Africa. We will proceed with the presentation from the National Prosecuting Authority, dealing with the questions as reflected by the Honourable Deputy Minister. I will kickstart the process with slide number 2, which is in relation to question number 2 as well. Thank you. Now, for purposes of the introduction, I just wanted to reflect that our questions will be, and response will be in relation to question 2, in relation to question 4, 5, 6, and 7. On question 2, challenges and interventions required to ensure successful prosecution of sexual offence cases. Just to reiterate, the priority focus area of the National Prosecuting Authority, as implemented amongst others by the National Director of Public Prosecutions and the senior management, that gender-based violence and femicide is the national priority for the NPA in all of the 11 divisions, both on local and provincial level. That means that these cases are receiving top priority in the court environment and by the prosecutors for purposes of prosecution. That's also the case in relation to matters reported at Thutuzela Care Centres. Sexual offences case management are managed and monitored in the respective divisions through a process of a comprehensive integrated stakeholder management on local and provincial levels. Our stakeholders in this regard, to ensure that these cases do receive the required priority, is absolutely essential. First of all, we start from the NPA, obviously with SAPS, because they are the experts in the investigation of cases. In many instances, specifically in these cases, and I will talk about it later, Department of Health and hospitals and clinics that are responsible for those crucial forensic medical examinations play a crucial role, because that in many instances is the most crucial piece of evidence to corroborate the single witness testimony of the unfortunate victim in this regard. If the stakeholder management is not sufficiently dealt with at provincial or local level, it's obviously escalated to national. But we've got stakeholder responsibility meetings in all DPP divisions to ensure that stakeholders work together as a well-oiled team in this regard. TCC sites and TCC responsible officials are also part of the directors of public prosecutions in the different division stakeholder management meetings. The case flow management, as we all know, in relation to how cases are being channeled to the court system, resorts under the presiding officers. There are a number of interdependencies in relation to stakeholders, and obviously it needs, without being stated, that the COVID-19 impact had, unfortunately, a negative impact on the productivity in the courts, and I will talk about that later, because we obviously experienced a far lower number in the finalization of cases. However, as a positive note forward, we can say that we've picked up from the Q2 period. Now, the Q2 period would be July, August, September, where we've picked up an increase in the number of cases being finalized and prosecuted at these courts, specifically on gender-based violence and femicide. Human resources constraints is always a challenge in the National Prosecuting Authority, because we always need to work towards getting that sufficient expertise, specifically when we're talking about specialized prosecutors that need to have that specific knowledge and understanding to deal with these cases. That's why I will say, and I will talk about it later on, the crucial impact of social context awareness training to ensure, I'm not at slide 4 yet, kindly just go back to number 2, thank you, to ensure that prosecutors do have that specific understanding. DNA backlog, and honorable members would have picked up, it is a challenge for us at the moment. We're working with SAPS in this regard to ensure that more of these forensic DNA reports are being channeled through the system, because in many instances, that piece of evidence is a crucial link to ensure a conviction, simply and specifically where identity is placed under the question mark by the defense. Then, in many instances, if the witnesses are not sufficient to sufficiently identify the identity, your DNA, a forensic analysis report, is that crucial link of evidence. Then, obviously, the NPA also provided extensive inputs in relation to the drafting of various amendments, specifically as it was coined recently, the 3 gender-based violence bills, and I will talk about that later on as well. The NPAs always have a responsibility and commitment towards the implementation and application of relevant sections in the legislation once passed. Thank you. Next slide. My next slide would be in relation to question number 4. This is on the training requirements to ensure that proceedings are victim-centered and ensuring that victims are not additionally traumatized. Now, since the implementation of Act 32 of 2007, which was on 16 December 2007, the NPA commenced with a comprehensive training program to ensure that prosecutors will have that advanced skills in specifically dealing with sexual offences prosecutions. That entails the crucial aspect which I mentioned a few minutes ago on social context awareness training. It's vitally important that prosecutors do have that understanding in the system, but also other relevant integrated stakeholders on how to deal with the sensitive cases in line with the Sexual Offences Act. The training curriculum is also amended on an annual basis to ensure that we are in line with the latest developments of case law and legislation, what we do is we do training schedules on a regular annual basis to ensure that that training material is tip top. We review it and amend it on a process preceding the actual delivery of the training to ensure it is actually the latest information. NPA directives are compiled and were compiled in line with the Sexual Offences Act. We also currently compiled the regulations amendments towards the directives, which is being circulated to our relevant stakeholders that will then also present it to Parliament. We participate in a number of public education and public awareness programs, specifically with officials from the TCCs in the Women's Month, August and September. There were a number of 112 different public awareness campaigns, obviously mostly on virtual platform delivered or by means of radio talk, community radio talk shows, where we inform the public of what their rights are in relation to sexual offense and the TCC model as well. The TCC, just the previous slide, thank you. I'm still on question 4, thank you. In relation to the 16 days of activism that we all know that kick-started yesterday, as the Honourable Chairperson also reflected to, this is where the NPA plays a crucial proactive role instead of the usual role that the criminal justice sector plays, which is reactionary. So this is where we also kick-started quite a comprehensive and detailed program. It's about approximately 46 of the TCC sites that will participate in these public awareness campaigns nationally throughout the country. Thank you. Next slide. I will move to question number 5 that deals with the management of cases, including backlogs and frequent postponement of cases. Now, when I started, honorable members will recall that I did say that there is a priority focus on the prosecution of sexual offences and gender-based violence femicide matters, which is specifically in the sexual offences courts, which will also be catered for in relation to the designated courts that will be implemented in line with Section 55A of the Sexual Offences Act, specialist prosecutors that are appointed and that we are going to proceed with them being appointed as well, and also the advanced training of these officials. Court preparation officers play a very crucial link because they are there to assist those witnesses and make them understanding the processes that happens in court. Obviously, they don't go into the merits of the case, but they explain prior to the actual case commencing, what does a court environment entail and how does it all fit into the process. The TCC model, as all know, is a victim-centric model for rape care management and is specifically geared to assist victims when they reported these matters. Just on another note, that many a times we receive as the NPA questions about the postponements of cases. Remember, as much as the process work in court, that the presiding officers are responsible for the management of cases in a court environment. So they are also responsible for the allocation or granting of bail and the granting of postponements. That's within the discretion of the presiding officer. So the prosecutor can oppose sometimes when bail is requested and present evidence, or sometimes oppose a request from the defense for postponement, but the ultimate decision lies with the presiding officer in his or her discretion. Now, obviously, when I spoke about early on also interdependencies, I'm not going to reiterate that, but as I said, the COVID-19 had a massive impact, and that had an impact on the quality and the number of cases being investigated, prosecuted, prosecutor-guided investigations provided, and obviously cases finalized in a court of law. Then in relation to sometimes we've got challenges from our colleagues at DCS, also because of their own environment, that we struggle to get prisoners not arriving at court at a particular time or when it's supposed to be there. So you've got sometimes attorneys withdrawing from record or non-availability at court or non-availability of court personnel due to many other reasons. So that will obviously have a negative impact on the flow of these cases. I did mention previously on that the COVID-19 caused a massive drop in the finalization of cases, unavailability of court personnel. That goes without reason that it would be an understandable outcome due to that. Witnesses not available at the court, However, as I indicated, we've noticed a higher finalization in the month of October versus August. For instance, I reiterated there that in the month of August, we had 67 cases finalized, whilst in October, we had 132 cases finalized. So there's an improvement in performance of 97%. Now, just to reiterate also the impact of the TCC model and the value that the model brings to this process, is that in October of this year, we had 18 life imprisonment sentences, but for the whole year, in comparison, starting from April, it was 81 life imprisonment sentences. Now, if one puts that into perspective, it's crucial to note the following, and I just want to reiterate that for instance, the number of life imprisonment sentences that we had in the previous financial year would be 267, and we had 154 long-term sentences between 20 and 25 years. This is specifically for cases reported at a TCC and finalized as a TCC case at those courts. I did mention previously on that the DNA backlog is, for us at this stage, a stumbling block. However, with our negotiations that we have with SAPS and FSL in this regard, we have received a number of those DNA analysis reports that were submitted that will obviously assist the NPA to get more cases finalized through the process. And there I reflected that in phase 1, we submitted a list of 235 cases, of which we received 79 reports. And in the second phase, we submitted 1,612 cases, of which we received 303 feedback reports. But it must be noted that remember that the reports, the analysis reports that we get back from FSL is not necessarily per case, but rather per docket. So colleagues will understand, and honorable members will also know, that in many instances you have one case with 5 dockets because it might be a serial rapist matter. So obviously there will be 5 different DNA reports that will be allocated to one case. So that will obviously indicate why in some instances you have less cases that will be allocated to the number of reports. We're also looking at this stage of having more specialized positions for prosecutors, either permanent or on contract, to address the specific need of these matters throughout the country in all the divisions. Thank you. Next slide. I will move to question number 6, which is on the challenges in relation to the effective functioning of the Thutuzela Care Centres. I mentioned that the model is a one-stop integrated rape care sexual offences management model. It's victim-centered, court-directed with prosecutor-guided investigation. So it's an holistic model that is absolutely focused on integrated services by all relevant stakeholders. And obviously, our crucial stakeholders in this regard would be the Department of Health, because that's where the TCCs are located, at the Department of Health facility or premises, either within the building or within a park home. SAPS, very crucial, because they're experts, as I said, in relation to the investigation of cases. DSD, social development, and your crucial NGOs or civil society organizations that assist us with the element of trauma containment counseling or support services that are being provided to the victims. The NPA is responsible for the appointment of a case manager who is an experienced prosecutor with additional expertise in sexual offences prosecution, a site coordinator, which is a site manager, and a victim assistant officer per site. Now, obviously, due to budget constraints, we are not in a position to say that all of the sites do have all 3 personnel. So, but at least if one person is appointed, we can provide services to those victims that are reporting the matters. And we're working towards a process of getting more positions filled. At this stage, we are in the process of appointing 12 additional case managers, 9 site coordinators, and 16 victim assistant officers throughout the country at sites where these positions are vacant. One of the challenges that we do have is that we could not establish additional TCCs in the previous approximately 4 to 5 years because of limited voted funds. However, on the CARA funding that we receive, as the Honourable Deputy Minister alluded to, we are targeting 6 sites to be established within this period. So, and he listed those sites that we're targeting to. There are 5 sites that have specifically been identified. We're just waiting for the 6th site from confirmation from Department of Health. The provision of services to all victims, it must be stated and reiterated that not all victims that are reporting the matter to a TCC necessarily require a case to be opened or specifically investigated by SAPS for various personal reasons. And that is also in line with the Constitution, because the victims do have the right to report the matters. They will get the relevant services that's provided at the TCCs, but about approximately 35% of those adult victims will indicate that they want the services, but due to reasons, they do not want a particular case to be investigated and so forth. If one looks at the next bullet point, which I think is quite crucial, because this is where we look at what is the relation between matters being reported if you're talking about children versus adults. And in that regard, it needs to be reiterated that we're working with 57 to, it's about 57%, it was for the previous year. I coincidentally, I checked yesterday that for the month of October, it stood at 58% of all matters reported at the TCCs are unfortunately with children as being the victims of these horrific offenses. And approximately 90% of all matters reported at TCCs are specifically on sexual offenses. Now, in the period for last year, we had 35,469 matters reported at our 55 sites. And I've reflected there, if we look at the period from 2015-16 to 2019-2020, we assisted 169,025 victims at the 55 sites. I specifically reflected that with a period when we had 55 sites to have an equal comparison. We've noted that in the current period, there was a massive drop for obvious reasons. In the first quarter, your April, May, June, when we were in more serious lockdown in relation to matters being reported. But since the lockdown regulations have been lifted gradually, we noticed that there has been a considerable increase in matters reported at our TCCs. And that's what I reflected there. From August to October, there was an increase of 38% in matters reported at sites. Thank you. The next slide. That will be number 7, and that's also the last slide from the NPA. As I indicated, the funding that we have currently for the 55 TCC sites are included in the NPA voted budget funds. The TCCs are currently government funded, all of them. Yes, we always require additional funding, which we receive from donor funding for additional projects or research that needs to be done or research that has been done, which is extremely useful. This is where we also received the CARA allocation when we submitted a bid, amongst others, for the establishment of additional sites and the refurbishment or additional equipment that need to be purchased for the current sites to include services to be provided. And we're working on that process as we speak. Unfortunately, it needs to be stated that due to the lockdown, we had also that affected the availability of relevant service providers for park homes or the refurbishment. But luckily that process is being addressed and we have now more service providers that are coming forward. But that is part of a tender process that we need to implement, because your park homes usually cost about 1 million per park home to be established, because it needs to meet specific requirements that is aligned with a TCC. The CARA funding also needs to be stated does not cover staff recruitment. So the staff recruitment that I spoke about earlier needs to come out of the NPA voted budget funds. The NPA budget, as I said, is responsible for staff appointments, and I've already spoken about the staff procurement process that we're currently working on for TCC personnel. We're also working on currently in a process to have additional court preparation posts to be established and created, and then obviously advertised. We've also trained the victim assistant officers to be utilized as court preparation officers in the absence of court preparation officers to extend that service even further. Our civil society organizations are also assisting by providing crucial court support services to victims of these offenses that are specifically reporting at the TCCs. They also assist us in many instances with crucial trauma containment counseling, as I alluded to previously. Funding is always required for additional sites to be rolled out. I mean, if we look at the current position of the South African police and the FCS units, they've got just a little bit more. If I'm not, I know they had 176 of these units. I think it's +8 as we currently speak. So we're striving to get to that stage where we will have TCC spread in all areas so that there's more or less an equal distribution also between rural and urban areas. And for that, we always require additional funding for that to be implemented. Thank you, Honourable Chairperson and Honourable Members. That is the presentation from the NPA. I am done for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Let's proceed to the second presenter.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. This is Advocate Praise Kambula from the Department of Justice. I ask that my presentation to be flagged. We made arrangements at Chairperson before time. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Is the presentation on?
Yes, Advocate, you may proceed.
Thank you. Thank you. As I have said that I am Advocate Praise Kambula from the Department of Justice. And the question that I will be dealing with, would you please move to the second slide? It's about the resources, funding, support, personnel, and facilities that are required for the proper functioning of the sexual offences courts. So in our response to this question, I think it will be proper for us, if you can move to the next slide, it will be proper for us then to talk to the Presidential Summit Declaration and the NSP, because as you know, Chair, that we in 2018, we were requested by the presidency to assist in the planning and the execution of the very first summit in our country, summit on gender-based violence, which was hosted by the presidency. So we took it further and assisted and led the process of the development of the Presidential Summit Declaration, and also participated in the development of the National Strategic Plan. So a number of activities have been done to move the implementation of the NSP. As you might know, that as the department, we are taking the leadership in the implementation of the NSP Pillar 3. So the Deputy Minister has mentioned a number of progressive initiatives that the department has done to comply with both the Presidential Summit Declaration as well as with the NSP. So a number of legislative amendments have been done. So I would like us to dwell on this slide. If you can take me to the next slide. Now, in the previous slide, there's reference that has been made to the regulations. We have the regulations, and the regulations is a document that actually it embeds is the embedment of the model for the sexual offences courts. As you might know, Chair, that we are the country in the whole world that started the model of the sexual offences courts. So we are pioneering this model, and the other countries are beginning now to follow us and to implement it. So then as a country, so as to ensure that we keep on leading in this area, so the regulations relating to the sexual offences courts are actually then encapsulating all the particulars and the basket of support services that are relating to the sexual offences courts. So there are a number of stakeholders that are responsible for the implementation or for the implementation of the Section 55 capital A sexual offences courts. As the Deputy Minister has said that now we have them as statutory sexual offences courts. So we have a number of stakeholders as you are seeing them there. And one important stakeholders are the court supporters. We are recognizing that we cannot do this work without the NGOs. As the Summit Declaration, Article 1 of the Presidential Summit Declaration says that we must all persons living in South Africa must take responsibility to end sexual offenses and gender-based violence and femicide in the country. So we have included the NGOs, that is the civil society, as a key stakeholder to provide the court support services. Would you please take me to the next slide? So the regulations, they provide the catalog of services is 12 key support services. So it starts with the information services. And with the information services, it's quite key because they can be, we need to ensure that the victims are informed of the support services before they come to our courts, and when they are in the system, and also after they've exited the system, so as to ensure that we reduce the rate of attrition in these cases, because information is quite key. So it builds the user confidence, and it also assists them to be able to use the system with minimal assistance. And also it also helps them then to be able to navigate the system with minimal assistance. So we have the first, that is a responsibility of all the stakeholders that are responsible of providing services in the sexual offences court to ensure that they inform the victims of their rights. And then secondly, we have then the court support services. As I have mentioned, that these are the services that are offered by the NGOs that are housed mostly at our courts. So they provide the court accompaniment services. They also provide the emotional containment service and other services. And we also then, and as you see it then, it's sort of a chart. It's a chart, it's a chart that navigates the victim into the sexual offences courts. So the next thing then is court preparation service. Court preparation is quite key, so as to ensure that the victim understands as what is expected of him or her when testifying. So the court preparation services is provided by the NPA, by the court preparation officers. So it sort of allows the victim to be able to know the roles and the responsibilities of the court personnel, and also to know, as I have said, the role, his or her role when testifying. And it has the pre-trial emotional containment service and also the post-trial emotional containment service, so as to ensure that we don't take to court a victim that is not emotionally ready to testify. And then the victim will be ushered then to the private waiting services. And then we have private waiting areas that are age appropriate, that provide information as the victim is sitting there, so as to ensure that we build the knowledge of the victim and the confidence of the victim, and make the victim ready to testify. And as you will see, then it takes us, then when the victim is in the private waiting area, we also provide then, as part of the basket of support services, the private consultation service, which is done by the NPA. So with the sexual offences court, you will not find a victim who is consulted in a court environment, or that is in the courtroom environment or in passages. So the consultation is quite private. And then we also provided the private testifying services. So the private testifying services to ensure that the victim, when testifying, is not testifying in the physical presence of the accused, which might traumatize the victim when testifying. So we ensure that it then is testifying in a private environment, and if it is a child, then it will be with the assistance of the intermediary, and the intermediary is them to provide the service to a child or a person with mental disabilities. So the child, when the child comes to our court system, it does not even know that is in a court. That's how we have done the system. So that's how we have built the victim support model for the sexual offences court, is to ensure that then is protected from the anxieties that one might experience when coming to a court environment. So they don't know. So from the child waiting area, which is a play area for them, and it keeps them and protects their emotions, and then is taken to the private testifying room, where is only with the intermediary, and the intermediary then is the one who's conveying the questions from the courtroom and to the child, and from the child to the courtroom. So the child does not even hear what is happening at the court, and does not see, which is quite important, the accused person, unless required to identify the accused. And the identification will be done through the dual CCTV system, and will do that still in the privacy of the testifying room. And we also then, people have been asking as to how do children testify in our court, especially the toddlers, because as you know, I think you might know that we made history in the world by having the youngest victim of sexual offenses, rape, and it was a 6-week-old baby that was raped in our country. So then we use the anatomical correct dolls, and these are the dolls then that depict all the sexual the organs of a person. So the child then, using the anatomical dolls, is able then to demonstrate the sexual act to the court. And this then is one of the testifying tools that we're using for the children, and also for persons with mental disabilities. And the intermediary services now, we are in the process. This is one of the clauses that are in the bills that are considered by Parliament, to extend the intermediary services to older persons. And this is a response by the department from a demand that we received from the older community. And we're also extending them to civil proceedings as well. Now, the regulations, one thing that is new that they have introduced is to ensure that we have the disability-centric services. So now, persons, when they are coming, the witnesses with disabilities, the regulations are providing them with a physical access, language access, so that then we also provide the braille for those who cannot, who are blind, and also the large font for the partially blind victims, and the guide dog. We have provisions now that they can bring the guide dog, and we provide then the services and for the guide dog. And of course, there is also, we ensure that the victim, after the conviction, must be allowed to speak and to advise the court as to what sentence should be imposed against the convicted sex offender. So the court preparation officers are there so as to assist then the victim to compile the victim statement, the impact statement for the victim. And we also provided the witness fee service, which is something that many people do not know, that we provided the travel allowance and also the food allowance. And this food allowance is made available to children and persons with mental disabilities as soon as they arrive at our courts. And then it runs across all the victims. And it is also a service that we also provide for those NGOs or persons who are doing the court accompaniment service, because we need children to come to court, so they will need to come with older persons, I mean with adults, so as to assist them to get to court, and the same applies then to some persons with disabilities. So we also provide the counseling services, which is done then by DSD. And this is a service that is done outside the court environment. Would you please take me to the next slide? This slide is a chairperson, is actually a depiction of all the services that we need. So you have the physical services, as I have mentioned, that must be a courtroom that deals with these cases, the waiting area, which is private, so as to minimize the incidence of trauma, and the physical contact with the accused and the victim is in the court, and also the consultation services that are private. So it's all of these that are there. And the waiting areas are also furnished in a manner that brings comfort to the victim when the victim is in our court environment. And then you have the technological services, the dual views, CCTV system, the court recording, and also the information screens, so as to keep the victim informed as is in our court environment. And then you have the resources, the human resources there, the magistrate and others. If you can take me to the next slide.
But we have to understand about so yeah.
Chairperson, do I continue?
Can we all mute, please?
Can the host assist us in muting everybody?
Jane.
Honorable Mama Rihani, mute your mic, please. You may continue. Advocate. Advocate Kambule, can you proceed? Host, can you assist us, please?
Yes, Chair, I'm trying to unmute Ms. Kambula.
Okay.
Can Advocate Kambule unmute herself, please? Please unmute yourself, Advocate Kambule.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I did not notice that. So this slide now is a slide that is a depiction of the zero-based costing that has been done for the implementation of the regulations relating to the Sexual Offences Court. As the Deputy Minister said in his opening, that the regulations they were approved in February this year. So we moved on with the costing. So this is the costing for this financial year. As you will see them, that the human capacity is 5.1, and the devices and the equipment that we need, and also the goods and services. So this is for a courtroom that has no no resources at all. So it will need about 5.8. But then we are in a process of upgrading these sexual offenses, upgrading the courts into sexual offenses courts. So that amount, when we get to a court, we find it with some level of resources. There will be human capacity. There will be a certain equipment that we will be needing in terms of the sexual offenses court model. So thus far, we have been using an average of about 300,000 to upgrade a regional court into a sexual offenses court. And we are also using the voted funds, the voted budget funds, and also the current budget also comes in certain areas to assist us with the implementation of these courts. Can you take me to the next slide? Of course, there are limitations, and our limitations are basically on human resources. As we have heard from the presentation by the NPA, that now they are in a process of hiring more court preparation officers, because each and every sexual offences court must have a court preparation officer. And we are also in a process of ensuring that we spread our resources on the intermediaries. We're also using the ad hoc intermediaries. Currently, we have a capacity of 136 intermediaries, and we're in a process of finalizing the resource audit so as to determine the exact resource gaps in terms of the intermediary services. We need more of the intermediary services. And what we have also done to ensure that we close the resource gaps there, we have established the intermediary diary system that permits the shared use of the intermediaries in the country, so as to ensure that then if there is an intermediary that speaks Afrikaans in the Western Cape and is needed, and in Eastern Cape, then we have that intermediary coming in then to assist in that in those proceedings. And we also have a situation then that, as you have seen them, that the catalog of the support services that are provided by the regulations, sometimes they cannot fit in certain courthouses. So because of lack of space, so it's a huge challenge, the infrastructural limitations. So it's a matter that we are working on with the Department of Public Works to help us then to break certain walls, to put in doors so as to ensure that there is a designated area that is private and safe for the victims who come into this space to testify. And the other challenge then is that in monumental court buildings, that becomes impossible. So it's something that we are working on as to how we can ensure that there's an even spread of services, irrespective of where the victim is. So even if in rural communities we are able then to provide these services, it's one area that we are still working on. So if you can take me to the next slide, I think this is the last one. Okay. This slide is showing a chairperson. This is the private waiting area for children. As you are seeing it, it provides an area for court accompaniment services, because a child cannot come to court unassisted or unaccompanied. So parents sometimes come to give support, emotional support to their children, or sometimes it is the NGOs, as the regulations are also allowing now and recognizing the court accompaniment services that will be offered by the court supporters. So it has a space for them there and children to play around and so as to take their minds off of the court environment. So sometimes they even leave the court environment without knowing that they have come to testify, because they come through a private entrance, not the entrance that is used by everybody. So I just wanted the members to see how the courts look like. And this is the model when you go to all the courts It's customized. It's for every sexual offences court. It has the same furniture as you are seeing it there. So Chairperson, I think this brings me to the end of my presentation, and I will await then the questions from the members. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Advocate. Can we proceed to the third presenter? I don't have a
Chair,
name.
that is Dr. Moshweo from the South African Judicial Education Institute.
Thank you very much, GM.
Dr. Moshweo.
Good morning, honorable members. Good morning, DM and my colleagues. I will be sharing my my presentation. My name is Khomolemo Moshweo. I am the CEO of the Judicial Education Institute. I'm just trying to share the presentation now. Let's go to the best. I thought it would be prudent for me to start with explaining just a bit about what judicial education, the functions of what we are doing. We are part of the Office of the Chief Justice. We are a unit in this department, and just the key functions that we are tasked with. We need to we provide continuing judicial education for the magistrates and judges that are on the bench. We are also responsible for training new judges and magistrates that are appointed. And we also conduct judicial education research. As we know that for training to be more relevant, we need to know what are the issues that are out there so that we can be able to address that through training. The last one, we also provide assistance to foreign judicial institutions. In 2019, we provided training to the judges and magistrates in Botswana. Through the request came through the Chief Justice as the chairperson of the SAJ Council. And I'm going to take the members through the training that we are offering here at the Institute, only relating to gender-based violence and sexual offenses for the magistrates. I've just listed, the Institute started operating fully in 2011, and we're still crawling, but by 2013, we started focusing on sexual offenses and vulnerable groups. And some of the events, as you can see on the screen, some of the training events, we do have both regional and district magistrates, and some is only we deal with them separately. But we have tried our best to.
There's nothing on the screen besides yourself, Doctor.
Okay, we'll do that now. All right, apologies for that. I was just saying that some of the training, we provide training for both regional and district, and some just separately because of their respective responsibilities. I also need to mention to the members that we are aware of the challenges that are emanating from the courts, whether through the judgments or we get some of the matters through Magistrate Commission, and also on matters that goes on review. We do get feedback, and we try our best to integrate those issues that are raised in our training.
Sorry, Doc. Can you enlarge your font, please, because we can't see.
Okay. Okay.
If you can get somebody to assist you there.
Okay, I'll do that. Just a second. Thank you. Is it okay now? Can I proceed?
Yes, you can.
Okay, thank you. I just need to also explain what on the screen you'll see. It refers to Human Rights Week. What we discovered after when we were implementing programs was that we did not have enough time to focus our training only on human rights. And as a result, from 2018, we decided to create a platform where both regional and district magistrates would be together to come and deal with human rights related issues. And for all the 2 years, 2018 and 2019, gender-based violence and all the topics that relates to vulnerable groups have been part of that program. And just to take you through the topics that we deal with in those programs, sexual offences, Human Rights Week, as well as gender-based violence. So these are the issues that we deal with. And the others, and also maybe I need to say something about gender stereotyping. As we all know, that stereotyping is a barrier to justice for our vulnerable groups. We highlight stereotyping when we conduct training for vulnerable groups, whether it's family court skills, whether it's specific webinars or dialogues relating to vulnerable groups. We really spend some time on judicial stereotyping, as it also affects the decision making by our judicial officers. And we try our best also to make our training practical. As you can see, one of the topics on the slide that dealt with practical challenges and best practices in dealing with gender-based violence. This particular judicial dialogue was I think it was in July 2020 for the magistrates in KZN. And we had senior magistrates who shared their experiences, and the session was quite interactive to try and suss out what magistrates are encountering whilst they're doing their jobs. And then I also, just the last one, that we are continuing with this concept of Human Rights Week. We are having one from next week, Tuesday to Friday, also focusing on those topics that relates to vulnerable groups. And then we are planning also to have a judicial dialogue for the magistrates in Gauteng province, where they're going to focus on gender-based violence and judicial stereotyping. And that is how far we have gone as the Institute. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Chair, the last presentation is Nicholas Munyai on the ICT.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair. Can you, okay, what's that? Thanks. Thanks, Chair. Members of Parliament. As per the introduction by the Deputy Minister. My name is Nicholas Munyai.
Mr. Munyai. Mr. Munyai, something is not right there.
Can you hear me?
I set on near him.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, my name is Nicholas Munyai. I'm the chairperson of IJS board and the head of IJS integrated justice system. I will be responding to the question raised around the measures taken to manage, measures taken and planned to manage and integrate criminal justice information system. We have shared the document with members, and then in the diagram, we have presented also with the context notes so that you then understand what we're dealing with. Firstly, on the question raised, we want to first start to say that there are multiple government departments and entities that are involved in the criminal justice system, right from the start of the process where a crime is committed, reported, and investigated through to the arrest of the accused, the adjudication of the case, the verdict, the outcome, and ultimately rehabilitation of the potential offender back into society. And in the South African criminal justice system, there are at least 8 different departments involved. And the diagram there depicts those 8 departments. The first one being the Home Affairs, precisely because it's where there's a national identity system. And secondly will be police, which then deals with when the person is arrested, social development, very critical, NPA, Justice and Constitutional Development, Office of Chief Justice, Legal Aid South Africa, and the Department of Correctional Services. And the second diagram that you see there, it's indicating that, so working together, this is an IJS hub, and all these departments are integrated with the hub. So working together and being integrated also means sharing data between each other. Example could be docket information from South African Police Service that is electronically shared with the NPA so that the prosecutor can prepare for the case. Or it could be correctional services verifying the identity of a visitor to a correctional center by checking his fingerprints against Department of Home Affairs records in the ANIS. There could be hundreds of potential integration where one department application system need to communicate and share data with another department's systems. And to avoid spaghetti-like mess where there are hundreds of individual point-to-point interfaces, the IJS have followed a hub and spoke model. At the center of everything lies the IJS hub and the central messaging platform that allows each connected government department and entity to exchange information with the others. All these 8 departments that are listed here. Each department only need one single connection to the IJS hub and is able to electronically exchange data with all other departments already connected. And from a system development and maintenance perspective, it simplifies things. Each department only needs to maintain that single interface point, which then provides them a single gateway to all the other department services. Already, like I've said in the beginning, 8 departments are connected to the IJS Transversal Hub, and they're exchanging real-time information between the system. Can you go to the next slide? Again, in the next slide, this diagram explains how information is exchanged around the digital case information. With 8 IJS member departments that I've already mentioned, that are already connected and are exchanging information, this is just an example. In the real world, a physical docket is opened by South African Police Service when crime is committed. The docket is booked to court when SAPS collaborates with NPA prosecutors to screen dockets and make the decision to enroll the case and prepares a charge sheet template. Once the case is enrolled and moves through to the adjudication process, key events are captured by magistrate on the charge sheet, and these are administered by a court clerk. As a prerequisite to integration, you need information system in place that are implemented and in use at each member department. And IJS member departments have invested significant portion of their allocation on the case management system. It being, for instance, from police, where they've developed what we call now integrated case and docket management system, which in future will be replacing the case that is being used for administration of all dockets within SAPS Station National. And we must state that sometimes it's not all stations. There are stations that even when we have got the ICDMS, they still continue to want to follow the manual process. Similarly, the NPA has what we call electronic case management system. And this system, this system that NPA designed for prosecutors to work on the electronic dockets, screen, enroll cases, and record necessary case tracking performance information. This is similar to DOJ in justice, who have integrated case management system, which then enables the administration of case at the court. So all these systems are then integrated from the time when the case is registered from the investigate and case docket management system. This system mirrors the real world case process flow and allow key evidence events to be captured by departments at each step, because you could imagine the large volume of paper documents that you have, dockets information. If we don't continue to modernize the criminal justice system, it will be a nightmare to deal with all these paper records. Can you go to the next slide? Again, we're saying this key dockets and case integration between police, NPA, and justice were implemented in 2016. Since then, more than 2.5 million cases have been integrated through the IJS hub. This includes summary docket information of the dockets booked to court from SAPS to NPA, electronic charge sheet system generated and electronically transmitted to DOJ, and electronic case outcome captured by court clerks and shared electronically with SAPS and NPA. The information of more than 650,000 criminal court appearances captured on the DOJ ISMS criminal application each year is shared via the hub so that police and NPA application system can be automatically updated. The benefits of this system integration between the three departments include, among other things, information can be shared early in the process at the source. There is no need for recapture and duplicate recapture by downstream departments, and creating a single view of the case, allowing integrated view of key performance metrics, so that, e.g., to avoiding an issue such as SAPS reporting X number of dockets and NPA trying to reconcile this with Y number of cases. It's positive to see that system integration are being implemented and starting to make a difference. But however, one must state that there's still a lot of change management work that needs to be done in this member department so that they can all move swiftly to start using the system from the time when the person is arrested at police. Can we go to the next slide? Again, here, the IJS envisages a full integrated CGS. I must say that there's still a lot that needs to be done to ensure that the criminal justice system is fully integrated. There are portions where we still need to do a lot of things to ensure that there is a full integration of all member departments. IJS envisages a full integrated CGS where all member departments have information system in place and are able to fully exchange information between each other. And the good news is a lot of progress has been achieved. Today, SAPS case system in operation across all 9 provinces national are able to exchange docket related information with several IJS member departments. And as discussed above, information about docket is electronically shared to NPA. Each month, more than 300,000 dockets ready notification are shared electronically. An electronic notification is sent from SAPS to legal aid where an accused has provided response to a means test that is recorded electronically by police. Similarly, very important, especially also in this context and mainly around social development, when a child is in conflict with the law or is apprehended by police, this information gets to be recorded on SAPS automatically and sends an electronic notification to social development so that a probation officer can be immediately assigned. This integration was implemented last year and has only been implemented to Northwest Province, Limpopo, Free State, and Eastern Cape. And we also envisage that in the next financial year, it will move to other provinces. The Department of Home Affairs makes available, before the next slide, the Department of Home Affairs makes available the PIVA, the person identification and verification application services, enabling the biometric verification of a person identity. A planned integration in the future will include the DCS to support full integration of DCS integrated inmate management system and to improve the tracking and management of both remand detainees and sentenced offenders. And the last slide. The last slide speaks about, of course, what are the achievements. Of course, at a high level, empowering the IGS program is also working on several initiatives to improve the efficiency and the effectiveness of the criminal justice system. Of our recent achievements, one is empowering our prosecutor to be more effective and tap into the wealth and experience of skilled specialists within the organization with the introduction of knowledge management tool, and the proof of concept has been implemented at the asset forfeiture unit and new established investigate directorate. It allows prosecutor to access a library of content, including key case law, judgments and ruling, collaboration through discussion forum and question and answer section, locate an expert directory through a skilled and experienced prosecutor within Home Affairs. Again, the ELA, in the legal aid, the introduction of ELA improves the management administration of assigned cases. And in July 2019, we're all aware, a key milestone was reached through undertaking of the first fully paperless case trial simulation in the OCJ. All parties in court were able to use their own laptop and mobile tablet to access and refer to digital version of case material. The solution enables each party to record notes and annotation, highlights, redact content as needed, and choose whether notes or annotation to be shared or kept private. And this was done in OCJ, Gauteng, Pretoria, and Joburg High Court as a pilot. Modernization and reform of criminal justice system is overdue and essential, and the program has been working closely with CETA to address issues related to poor project delivery progress. Resource constraint is often cited for underperformance, and the program for underperformance, and the program is working closely with CETA to establish a team dedicated ICT professionals to support the IJS program and the prioritized member departments. Before, I think also one needs to report that there was also a feminist watch that has been developed between IJS and DOJ.
So it's a femicide watch.
Yes, femicide watch, the dashboard deputy minister. Following the recommendation of the UN Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women, that South Africa established a feminist watch, and the IJS program worked closely with the DOJ to complete the research and the design of the femicide watch prototype. And the digital dashboard utilizes IJS data sourced from multiple member departments and is capable of displaying number of key metrics important to monitor the femicide in South Africa. It is anticipated that the platform will ultimately assist in the development of responsive and impactful policies, law, program, and initiative in this critical area. And I must say that the femicide watch dashboard has been completed, tested by the DOJ, NPA, and SAPS, and there's still one part that needs changes within the ICDMS from police, and then from there we will be able to be launching it in the beginning of April. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Munyai. DM, do we have somebody to give presentation in your department?
That's the presentation from Justice, the NPA, Sajay. So that's our presentation. I think it would then be for the police to present.
Okay. Thank you very much, DM and the Department of Justice. Honorable members, let's allow Department of Police to present. Thereafter, we'll take hands for clarity seeking questions. I don't know who is there to represent police.
Honorable Chairperson, it's Lieutenant General Simpe. I've been requested to come and represent the police. Chair, can you hear me?
General, you may proceed.
All right. Can I request that the presentation is put on the screen?
Yes, they will do so.
In the meantime, Honorable Chair, let me greet you as well as the honorable ministers who are present, the deputy ministers, all members of the Women Caucus. From the South African Police Service, I am with Lieutenant General Zulu, who is responsible for HRD. Then we also have Director Mngadi, who is the section head responsible for vulnerable groups, as well as Colonel Stein, who is our parliamentary liaison officer. I must tender the apology for the General Stolle, the National Commissioner. We are having a serious challenge of trucks that are being damaged and bent. So they are grappling with that to prepare a briefing to the minister and eventually to the president. So I have been requested to come and lead this delegation. The presentation was here. Yes, can we put it on the slideshow? Can we move to slide 2? I'm not sure who is running the presentation.
Sorry, I'm just fighting it. I'm just trying to get it onto the screen. Sorry, Chair and members, if you could just give me a second. There's just a problem loading the presentation, but we'll sort it out now.
Mandy, are you getting assistant?
Yes, Chair, I've asked someone to assist me. We're just trying to sort it out. Sorry about that.
Maybe I can continue and deal with the background in the meantime, Chair.
Yes, you can proceed.
No, no, thanks. The purpose of this particular presentation is to provide progress report on the interventions required in relation to Pillar 3 of the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide. We'll also touch on specific issues contained in the Emergency Response Action Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide, but also to outline the conceptual framework of the SAPS Gender-Based Violence Action Plan, which is aligned to the National Strategic Plan. We have developed the SAPS Integrated Sexual Offences and Gender-Based Violence Action Plan, which is aligned to the Gender-Based Violence National Strategic Plan and also the Gender-Based Violence Emergency Response Action Plan, including the Integrated Sexual Offences and Gender-Based Violence Strategy. Now, this action plan of the department serves as the implementation mechanism for all departmental initiative relating to gender-based violence and femicide, Chairperson. The plan that I'm talking about has got about 6 focus areas. It deals with enhancing policy frameworks, issues of training and development, enhancing accountability and organizational performance on gender-based violence cases, prevention of gender-based violence and sexual offenses, responsive care and victim support, including crime data and analysis and research. So those are the focus areas. Now, you will notice if you are having the presentation before you, which we sent earlier on, you will notice that our plan has got medium-term, short-term, medium-term, as well as long-term activities. And all these activities are linked to specific focus areas. Focus area number 1, I wonder what is wrong now with the presentation, but focus area number 1 that deals with policy frameworks. We want to ensure the implementation and compliance with a sub-regulatory framework that our members should comply with those frameworks. We will be doing quite a number of things there, revising policies and directives that are related to gender-based violence, determine gaps where are, and work on those gaps. We are also looking at strengthening strategic partnerships with key stakeholders which are involved in this particular matter of gender-based violence and femicide, but we are also looking at policy for the reducing barriers in terms of reporting of gender-based violence, sexual offenses, and domestic violence. So focus area number 1 deals with those 3 key objectives. Then when we move to focus area number 2, I hope the presentation can come, because I don't want to leave the members. Focus area number 2 on slide number 4, if you are having that presentation with you, it deals more with regard to training and development. And then when we provide progress, you will see what is it that we have done regarding this particular focus area. We are training our members on 4 learning programs that would be your domestic violence, your sexual offenses, child protection, and victim empowerment. So there are statistics relating to that to indicate the ground that we have covered in relation to this particular matter. Then we are also empowering SAPS members on human rights and policing, and there are specific activities that we are doing in relation to this particular area. If it's possible, maybe I can share it from my side. They can give me a share button, then I can share it from my side. Then on slide number 9, that is focus area number 3, that deals with enhancing accountability and performance on gender-based violence cases. There we are focusing on ensuring effective and efficient policing of gender-based violence, sexual offenses, as well as domestic violence. We are conducting compliance assessment with regards to all these relevant prescripts. There are teams that are going out there to conduct inspections and ensure that all these policies are implemented. Then we are also strengthening the key environment dealing with sexual offenses, gender-based violence and domestic violence. There we are focusing on our FCS units, strengthening them, ensuring that they are adequately resourced to be able to deal with the load of work that is associated with this particular phenomenon. Then when we move to the other one will be building community trust in the SAPS through communication. There are we want to provide regular feedbacks to the victims of crime. We know that most of the time when we are having our imbizo, there are complaints that we'll get from the communities regarding failure from our side to provide feedback to the victims. So we are looking into that. And where feedback has not been provided, we investigate that particular complaint. We do have inspectorate division that deals with complaints against the police. So they will investigate those matters and provide feedback in relation to that, and consequence management will also be applied in respect of failure by our investigators to provide feedback to the victims. We are also ensuring the coordination of gender-based violence structures and other community structures on various levels. For instance, we have established the high-level gender-based violence committee in the organization, but we are also rolling it out to the provinces so that they can also have that type of a structure to deal decisively with these particular matters of gender-based violence. Can we move to slide number 11? On slide number 11, we are, is it 11? It's focus area number 4. I'm done with this one. Can we move to focus area number 4? That's right. Here, Chairperson, we are looking at the prevention part of it. We want to implement all proactive measures to ensure that we deal with gender-based violence, sexual offenses, and prevent issues around domestic violence. So there are key activities there that one can touch on. Firstly is the issue of engagement with the civil societies, working with them so that we can establish gender-based violence intervention teams. But we are also developing proactive prevention strategies to deal with gender-based violence and domestic violence programs. We are also hosting gender-based violence and sexual offenses campaigns and public educations that will also include the Izimbizo. The Minister of Police has already conducted quite a number of Izimbizo regarding this particular matter. Even now as we speak, we are having a team that is in Treshville trying to raise awareness around this particular matter. Then when we move to the next one, the next slide, will be the hosting of gender-based violence and sexual offenses campaigns, like I indicated. One of our Deputy National Commissioners in Treshville with regard to public education program. Can we move to the next slide? That will be focus area number 5. Focus area number 5 talks to the response, care, and victim support here. This is where we are putting the victim at the center of all these things. So we ensure the provision of effective victim-friendly facilities and services to the victims, but we are also looking into promotion of safety and first responders to cases of gender-based violence. There we ensure that victim-friendly rooms meet the minimum requirements. I will also touch on the number of victim-friendly rooms that we have at our different police stations, as well as FCS units, including at some of the port of entries. So those are some of the activities that are linked to this particular objective. We are providing victim-friendly facilities or services at the different police stations. We can move to the next one. The next one will be the engagement of community police forums to gain community involvement. We are utilizing community police forum also to convey the message regarding this particular matter, engage the communities around this issue of gender-based violence, so that all of us can be identify, assist us in the identification of potential support and facilitate CPF-driven community education desk on gender-based violence. Then we are also looking at ensuring the provision of your kids. I think one of the questions that you wanted to know is whether we are having sufficient kids. I will touch on it. That is the D1, D7, and D8. Maybe for the information of the members, D1 kit deals with adult sexual assault evidence collection kit. Then your D7 is the one that we are using for children under 12 years. Then your DB is a DNA reference collection kit. So those kits, I will indicate the numbers and where we are in terms of the kits. We can move to the next slide. The next one will talk to, still talking to the response. Here we are ensuring proactive case and docket management. There are quite a number of activities there where our FCS will conduct a docket analysis so that we can be able to identify trends, be able to identify your serial rapist and so on. We are also liaising with NPA on trial-ready cases to ensure that by the time we take the case to court, it is ready to be tried. So eventually it will be the issue of feedback to complainants during the investigation process. We can move to the next one. That will be focus area number 6. In terms of this one, it deals with crime data analysis and research. Here, there are 2 key objectives. Is the evidence-based research on gender-based and sexual offenses and domestic violence, where our research unit would, from time to time, be requested to conduct research on policing of domestic violence and sexual offenses, and that the outcome of that particular research will, from time to time, enhance our interventions. Then we are also looking at ensuring that crime data collection and analysis on gender-based violence as well as domestic violence is done. So there are key activities also associated with that one. We can move to slide number 21, the next one. Chair, from 21 up to 30, it's a repetition. We just want to apologize. I will request the person to move to slide number 31. Here is just the progress regarding this particular plan. Can we move to the next slide? With regard to this one, that is pillar 3 of the National Strategic Plan, all gender-based violence survivors are able to access efficient and sensitive criminal justice that is quick, accessible, and responsive, and gender neutral. This is to be done through those 3 bullets indicated there. One, number 3, we are providing training. I will touch on the issues of types of training that we have done to our members. We are also dealing with systematic barriers to victims, as well as how we deal with the offenders. We can move to the next one. This is a progress report. So far, in terms of the measures to enable all victims have access to services and reasonable accommodation at different police stations. We do have that implementation action plan that we are implementing, one for people with disabilities also. Now, we have approved a revised costed action plan on the 16th of September 2019. That particular action plan addresses systematic barriers to services for the implementation by the police, and we are monitoring that on the ground. But we have also established the high-level committee. That particular high-level committee is constituted by lieutenant generals that will be DDGs in other departments, as well as provincial commissioners, that is the divisional commissioners and provincial commissioners, just to demonstrate how serious we have taken this particular matter in the organization. We have also developed and approved guidelines that have been distributed to different police stations regarding the services to people with disability. We have entered into MOUs with various stakeholders. Currently, the MOU with Deaf SA, that is for sign language interpretation, is awaiting the approval by the National Commissioner. We are also having another one, intending to have another one with the Commission for Gender Equality. Then we will also be focusing on ensuring that the national paragraph 5 of the national instruction regarding victim empowerment is implemented. So this is the progress in terms of this particular one. We can move to the next one. Then there's also LGBTI plus standard operating procedure that has been developed and approved. That was done on the 18th of April 2019. That particular SOP has been distributed to all police stations in the country. The capacity building sessions with provincial role players were conducted between September 2019 and January 2020. And in terms of reviewing the national instruction on domestic violence, we have done so. It has been reviewed. But with regard to the bill that is also before Parliament, I think there will be a need also to review the national instruction once the President has signed. We can move to the next one. This one talks to our police stations regarding physical, whether our people who are having physical disabilities are able to access our police stations. So the police stations that has got ramps and rail in Eastern Cape, you can see it's 171, and Eastern Cape has got 198. So in the country, we are having 1,155 police stations, and to date, 926 police stations do have ramps and rail available for people who are physically challenged to be able to access the services at our police stations. We are prioritizing the remaining police stations. Next slide. The next slide is simply depict those police stations that are still to be
Point of order, Chairperson. I'm sorry to disturb.
What is it, Honorable Kaul?
Thank you very much, Mhlonishwa. Bengifuna ukuthi ake sichazele ngo-REMS and REM kusho ukuthi yintoni leyo first. Ngiyabonga.
Okay, all right.
No, it's fine. Thank you, Honorable Kaula. The ramps and ramp, we design the floor in such a manner that a person who is utilizing a wheelchair can be able to access the police station. Now, there are buildings that, like indicated here, which do not have that. So others do have, as I indicated. So far we are having 223 where we need to focus on, so that at the end of the day, we can have all our buildings and police stations having ramps and rail. We can move to the next one. In terms of this one, it's the victim-friendly rooms at different police stations. It is still talking to enabling victims to access services at the police stations. Now, out of the 1155 police stations, we are having in Eastern Cape, it's 158, Free State has got 86, Gauteng 138, KZN 154, Limpopo 94, then we have Mpumalanga 84, Northern Cape 17, Northern Cape 74, and Western Cape it's 151. So in total, we are having 926 police stations that has got victim-friendly rooms. We still have a few of the police stations that do not have that, and they have been prioritized also. Can move to the next one. These are satellite police stations, also including the airports, like I indicated that even at the satellite police stations, we do have victim-friendly facilities, as well as the international airport, I think is the one of OR Tambo, as well as at our various FCS units. So in total is 38 for this. Then the whole total for subs in terms of the victim-friendly facilities is 1,096. And members, at police stations where we do not have these particular rooms, our members do have, they would from time to time interact with a relevant department, like your Department of Social Development, and refer the victims to Thutuzela Care Centres, as well as your Thutuzela Care Centres. So we are working with NPA as well as DSD in this regard. Can move to the next one. This is just to depict some of the challenges regarding some of our buildings that are without the ramp and rail. Some of these buildings, you would find that they are non-devolved. So they have been declared as a national heritage, museums, they are privately owned. So it takes time for us in terms of negotiating for us to be able to make some enhancement with regard to this. But we are working on this particular aspect, Honorable Chair. We can move to the next one. Here is just to ensure that we provide professional service. It talks to the capacity building of our members, that is the training. We have about 4 learning programs. Domestic violence, we have trained 94,141, and those that were competent is 93,301. Then you have first offender sexual offense with that number of 28,515. Vulnerable children, 55,648. Then victim empowerment, 28,391. Then FCS, those that have gone through FCS course, is 3,757. And then on my right, it will depict those that were declared competent in terms of this particular learning program. Now, there was also a training pilot that we did on the 8th to the 20th of November this year, Honorable Chair. We can move to the next slide. The next slide will talk to, no, just go back because this is important. Again, the Minister of Police, I think from time to time, he has been talking about the gender-based violence desks. Now, what we have done, we have requested our organizational development, that is OD, to conduct a study so that at the end of the day, we are able to ensure that there is a gender-based violence desk at each and every police station. So that particular scientific study is underway. It will indicate to us what would be the size of that particular desk, how many people should constitute that particular desk, what will be their functions, purpose and functions, all those things. Currently, what we have in place, we have appointed what we call domestic violence coordinators, but we are going to broaden, this study is going to assist us now to broaden this to cover the entire gender-based violence and femicide scope, not necessarily focus on domestic violence. So as soon as the study is finalized, we will then begin to implement this particular activity. Some of the training was suspended during COVID-19, and then they are being gradually restated. We can move to the next slide. The next slide talks to the measures, the issues of the kits that you also requested that we should present, measures that we have put in place to ensure that the rape kits are available at various police stations. Like I indicated, D1, we have ordered 58,662 to the value as indicated there. It's in the range of 10 million, I'm not sure of the numbers, but we also managed to get the entire order being delivered. D7, we ordered 50,674. That whole quantity was delivered also. In terms of the DB kit, we ordered 358,552. The entire order was delivered to the values indicated in the presentation. Can move to the next slide. Sorry. Then the DB kit, we also ordered 30,000. It was delivered as it is. D1 kit collection, it was also delivered 39,000. We ordered 39,000. We are still waiting for the delivery in this regard. D7, we are also waiting for the delivery. These are the kits that were ordered from the 1st of April to date. So we are still waiting for that. Then the DB kit for this particular period, we ordered 256, 471, 26,551 was delivered. The previous one is a different date as compared to this one. We can move to the next one. This is the delivery schedule with regard to what we have procured since April. The D1, the numbers are indicated there. So delivery was in full, we can see in the comments. Then in terms of the other kits, we are indicating the total delivery in terms of percentage. For D1 is 38% that has been delivered. This is due to back orders from suppliers. Then the next one, D7, the whole delivery will be done on the 25th of January 2020. Same reason, due to back order of components from suppliers. Then in terms of DB, the 256,471 that we have ordered, 26 has been delivered. There we are indicating that the delivery of the remaining will be done in November. That will be around 80,000. And then in December, we will have 69,920 also being delivered. So by January, the order should have been all in all being delivered. So we can assure the committee that during the course of the festive season, no police station will be without any rape kit. Then in terms of the interventions to support our police officers at various police stations, we are highlighting few things that we have done there. For instance, current development of cyber crime entry-level course is underway. We are also developing a specialized course for serial and electronic crime investigation for detectives dealing with serial and child pornography investigation. Debriefing sessions for those of our members who are exposed to some of these things are being done from time to time. Then there is a designated specialized sexual offense course enabling prosecutorial guided investigation. I think when the colleagues from NPA were presenting, they also touched on this one. Then we can move to the next slide. Here it's it talks to the proper resourcing and intervention required to enable successful investigation and management of sexual offenses cases. We are filling the current vacant post, especially within your FCS environment. This unit is being resourced in line with the work study report that was approved by the National Commissioner on the 16th of October 2020. We have prioritized this particular unit because it is critical in terms of dealing with this particular phenomenon. There is adequate training in child victim and witness statement taking for investigators, investigating officers, and forensic social workers. Each FCS cluster will be staffed with forensic social worker to ensure effective service delivery. So these are some of the interventions that we want to put in place. Issues of language is critical in your areas, such as Gauteng, Limpopo, Eastern Cape, as well as KwaZulu-Natal for African-speaking forensic social workers. So as and when we recruit them, we'll make sure that that particular individual will be, or individuals will be able to respond to this particular requirement, including the Xhosa-speaking forensic social worker in Western Cape. We are also intending to assign a forensic nurse to all areas where there are no Thutuzela Care Centres. We can move to the next one, that is the interventions made. This is the orders placed for evidence collection kit from 16th of August 2019 to the 17th of November. These are just the challenges. I gave you the figures, but these are some of the challenges that we are having. The one is instability of leadership management, submission of high volume of DNA buccal samples, the increasing workload and additional capacitation required to process all exhibit that is within the area of forensic. But I must indicate that there is a new acting divisional commissioner, Lieutenant General Moshala, who has been appointed to ensure that there is stability in terms of leadership in that particular environment. We understand the impact it has on the finalization of the cases as NPA indicated. So we are addressing these particular challenges, Chairperson. We can move to the next one. To that effect, we have designed a turnaround strategy to address the backlog regarding to DNA, the processing of DNA. This is just the turnaround, its aim, and what is it that we want to achieve at the end of the day. I think we can move to the next one. We want to make sure that the turnaround time is improved, there is increased production, and we reduce the backlog. That is the whole intention of this particular turnaround strategy. The progress made to date is indicated there. I may not bore you, Chairperson, with all the details, but you will notice that on the right, there are a number of contracts that has been awarded to ensure, it's 11 to ensure that we deal with the backlog. Those that are to be awarded is 3. Number of contracts advertised is 5. Number of contracts to be advertised is 2. Number of contracts in evaluation stage is 3. So we believe that once all these contracts has been awarded, we will be able to expedite some of the evidence that is needed in court. With regards to capacitation of the Division Forensic Services with adequate staff, there are 175 post promotions that were advertised. 13 posts were advertised, the 3 internal and 10 external. Then 17 general worker posts were also advertised and filled. 40 lateral explosive posts were also advertised. 61 re-enlistment. We are also looking at those that were working in the environment who left the service. So we tap into their skill and re-enlist them back to come and assist us. Then the 4 senior management posts, they are going to be advertised in the environment of biology SAU support, as well as the regional head office. We can move to the next slide, which will be almost the second last. This is also talking to the progress that we have made regarding the issues of contracts. There is a task team that has been established also to benchmark and pilot mobile DNA laboratory, so that provinces that may not be able, that do not have the, the lab, we are able to utilize a mobile DNA lab that we believe will also expedite our turnaround time. Then in Eastern Cape, the Eastern Cape laboratory contract was advertised for 14 days. It is currently under consideration. We made commitment that we'll have a DNA laboratory in Eastern Cape, and then that process is underway. I think we can also move to the next one. This one is still about the progress to maintain forensic facilities in accordance with the ISO standards, as well as the OHSACT, in order to ensure value for money. So the health risk management contract was awarded, and currently personnel is prioritized for medical surveillance and vaccination. Chief compliance representative appointed, compliance inspections conducted, fumigation of facilities conducted. So all these things we are doing just to make sure that that particular facility that is dealing with very sensitive evidence is not contaminated. So we have put those measures in place, Chair. I do not want to bore you with other details. Measures taken in terms of the planned integration of systems. I think NPA touched on it, but internally in the organization, there are a number of corporate systems that we have that we are integrating as listed there, from your FSL, Forensic Science Laboratory admin, to integrate with CAS. That is where we are registering our dockets. Is CAS or ICDMS. We are both using them to register dockets. So all these integrations are underway. At the end of the day, we'll be able to come back and say 100% all these systems have been integrated in the organization. There are some challenges as indicated there that has delayed the process, the issue of COVID-19, but now that we are in stage one, the colleagues are working on this particular aspect. Then the next one will deal with the external integration. I think here NPA touched on it, so I will not bother you with regard to this. There is a tremendous progress that has been made with regard to this particular integrations between ourselves as well as NPA, as the colleague who was presenting here, Chairperson. I think that is in short from our side, Chairperson. We'll wait for the questions, if any. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, General Simpe. It was a long presentation, more formative. I think a lot of us have learned a lot today. Honorable members, we're now going to ask questions. Is there any hands that need to ask questions for clarity?
Chair, my hand is up. Kikana.
I can see Honorable Kekana, Mananiso, Druken, Hermans, Abraham, yes. I think it's how many hands? And oh, and Makaula, okay. And Honorable Lucas. I think seven hands.
And
Honorable Kegan.
Chairperson, thank you very much, and greetings to all the honorable members of the Multiparty Caucus. We really want to appreciate the presentation and the coordination for this comprehensive report by the Justice Cluster. Chair, I have one comment that I want to make, and I hope DM Jeffries is here. I will request your indulgence, Chair, because of the role that we play, especially the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies. There's an entity called Film and Publications Board, which deals with online gender-based violence. So in the next round of engagement, Department of Justice is very critical on this. So it means we should come back once you have dealt with some of the things that today have been dealt with. We should come back and explain the challenges and the levels of crime that are going online, from online child trafficking to online dating to all these things that are happening, and cybersecurity issues for members to understand, because we want to move with members from January when the schools reopen, and because of the level of tablets and technologies that kids are using, we must be with you as mothers on the issues of do's and don'ts in the cybersecurity, because we know internet does not have delete. Once you post your things on the internet, you are there for life. And now, currently, kids, now when they are at university and they become executives, they want employment. When they Google them, they find all the challenges that they did when they were still young, when they thought they are in the safe space. So I'm just saying, with the good work that Justice Cluster has presented today, I will ask and will be guided by you, Chair, to now bring in the online and the cybersecurity element of some of these things that are happening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, DM. Honorable Mananiso, I hope the department will be noting the questions and the comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. Let me firstly welcome all the presentations, and I must say it is indeed informative. I want to start with the NPA, and at least with them as well, I could relate with what is happening in our local magistrate court, Randfontein. There is a man there by the name of Thomas Ngubeni, who is our public prosecutor. When we go there every time in terms of protesting or picketing in support of victims, he would even take time in terms of capacitating us on what we need to do to ensure that all perpetrators are in custody. And I must say that he's one of the people that if he was being given a task to be all over, all these people who are traumatizing us will be in jail. My question on NPA, Chair, is I want to check, I've acknowledged everything that they are doing and the plan with regards to ensuring that we've got adequate and proper resources to deal with gender-based violence and femicide. However, I believe that most of the human capital that is working in this space, most of them, sometimes they look disgruntled or unmotivated. So I want to check from NPA, what is it that they have in place to ensure that they keep motivating those who are upholding to good ethics in the system? Because we know that most of them, till to date, they are still being seen as people who are corrupt, but yet need to protect our people. So I want to check what is it that they have in place in terms of ensuring that they motivate those who are still within the confinements of the principle of law. To Department of Justice, I want to acknowledge the fact that you have a victim support model that is nice, that has 12 key support services. However, I want to know how do we get to know about this particular key support services as the community? Because at times we see victims feeling that they are not getting any support from the side of justice. And I'm not sure if they do know that there's packages in terms of accommodation, food, and so on. So I want to know where in this process of these cases does one make aware of what is there in terms of the victim support, which is for Department of Justice. And then for Judicial Education Institution, I think you must start doing awareness programs so that we know that these people who we are trusting about the justice system are being capacitated and so on. And the issue of judicial dialogue for the magistrate, I think it needs to be publicized so that people must know that the state or government is doing their part in ensuring that people are within the confinements of understanding that all of us, we are equal to the law and all of us, we deserve protection per the Bill of Rights. For IGS, Integrated Justice System, my question is, I acknowledge the fact that now we've got an integrated system, one, and the fact that the system can talk to each other. But I want to know how credible and reliable is the system? Because at times when we speak on issues of cases, we are being told other cases are not there, they cannot appear on the system and what, and this and that and so on. So I want to get an understanding how credible and reliable is this particular system, as much as we're taking note that the system it's been modernized by us. The other thing it's with, okay, the question for subs. With subs, I want to know, number one, the issue of capacitation for SEM units, to say, are they all trained as we speak or not? Or when are we anticipating that all of them, they will be trained? And the other issue is with regards to gender-based violence intervention teams. I want to know if in all police stations, do we have those particular gender-based violence intervention teams? And if not, when are we anticipating to be having all in these spaces? The other one is with regards to the testing kits. I want to check with yourselves to say that in a case of not having a specific kit for testing, can any be used for testing? That's my question. Because at times we have been told by other members of parliament, more especially from DA and EFF, to say when people go to police station, there are no testing kits. So I want to know if there is none of these testing kits, or if there is D1 or D7 or DP, one can be used for any testing. Chairperson, sorry for taking time. The other one is with regards to the guidelines that are being distributed. Are you saying that if I can go to subs now, because I'm close to subs, I can get this particular guidelines and I can get a police officer telling me that he or she knows everything about how to deal with gender-based violence for people with disability? And the other one is with the issue of LGBTIQA+, the issue of distribution. I want to know, can you confirm that all police stations have these particular documents? And if I can go now, I would get them. On the issue of for accessibility and mobility in police stations, I have noted that you have written that your time frame is the 31st March 2021. I want to ask you, how realistic is this? Because of now we are on November 2020. So 31st March 2021, noting the budget cuts, how realistic is this time frame that you are giving us? The other thing is with regards to satellite police station. I'm from Mohlakeng Township, and our police station, satellite police station, was closed for a year, and I had to intervene for it to be opened, and it is now operating from 8 to 16 hours. And I believe that for us to deal with gender-based violence and femicide, satellite police station must be fully used. So I want to check, are there any plans for those satellite police stations who are not being used fully, so from Monday to Sunday, 24/7? Are there any plans that all the satellite police station can be used anytime? The issue of backlog order from suppliers with regards to the kits, why is subs not having alternatives that if Jane fails to deliver, would have this other one, so that the government is not blamed for people who are getting this opportunity for economic development? So why can't subs have alternatives so that they can give other people who have capacity this particular opportunity? And the issue of demographics in terms of actually who benefits in this supply chain management processes, it's an interest and concern for me, because we would note that the president has called that everybody at least must give 40% of opportunities to women. So I want to know if in this SCM opportunities in your space, can you confirm that LGBTIQA+ are benefiting young women, young men, people with disability, and women and men in general. So I just need, if possible, can you give the multi-party caucus that breakdown, even if it's after this particular session? The other one, Chairperson, it's about what I've noted on the presentation to say that they have a plan in terms of reinstating other officers. I want to check with them. Do they have a specific age in terms of this? Because I don't think that it will be proper, this reinstallment, who have pensioners and as well people who have dodgy scandals. Number of corporate systems that we have, we acknowledge that. And Chair, lastly, I have noted that the report by, I think it's Department of, I think it's NPA, not NPA, sorry, it's Department of Justice, where they indicate on their slide, I've noted it's page, slide 8 below, Department of Justice. I've noted that there's a date that indicates 22 February 2011. Is it an error, or this particular plan was then done on the 22 of February? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Mananiso. Honorable members, if there are those that didn't raise their hands now, but they feel that they do have questions, can we please write them down and send them to the secretary? She will forward them to the department. The department will also respond in that manner. Thank you very much. Honorable Druken.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for all the presentations, very detailed presentations. Thank you so much. My questions, firstly, I think the Deputy Minister John Jeffrey said that when a person comes into the police station, the reporting is high, but the number of convictions going through court is less. So I want to know how many of those who enter police stations are children, and what percentage of that does not get convicted. So the question I'm asking is, my constituency, for example, two children's cases were thrown out of court because there was not enough, it didn't even get to court yet because there was not enough evidence. So I'm just wondering what percentage of cases of sexual abuse or rape towards children do not get as far as courts. That's the one thing. Secondly, I want to ask, I compliment the work of the TCCs. I know that it's in an internationally recognized model, but all over the country, obviously, we only have 55 TCCs, and we're adding another 6, which is great, and that's fantastic. But my concern is, sorry, just a moment. So my concern is, again, in my area, the TCC is in Atlantis, and the area of Swartland is quite far, and also not necessarily people who can afford to travel, or they don't know where the TCC is. So I would like to know what other NGOs or even the police or whatever can assist to do the work as the TCC does. Okay, and then also with regard to the DNA testing. The DNA testing, the big backlog that we have, but what is the reason for this backlog? I do see the numbers, that you need to hire staff and all of that, but what is the real reason that caused the backlog in the first place? Was it because we don't have enough labs, or we don't have enough specialists? What is the reason that caused the backlog in the first place? Then I'm very happy that you've added, I think it's Department of Justice, that you added the new disability-centric approach, because that's really good. But I would also like everyone to note the concerns. For example, if a deaf child is sexually molested by a teacher in a school for the deaf, sometimes, SAPS or the prosecutors uses teachers to be the interpreters. And I do not encourage that at all, because sometimes the perpetrator and the teacher are friends because they work together, but the child is not able to express themselves because of this situation. So we need someone from an outside organization like DEFSA who is neutral, who don't know the school, who don't know the teachers. So we need to recognize that. And then sometimes in court, sometimes the courts have interpreters there, or they have interpreters on the database, but the deaf person or the deaf child does not understand that interpreter. And the judge then refuses to allow a deaf interpreter, a person who is deaf who can interpret, in court because they're not on the list. So we need to consider these various issues as well. And I'm also very happy that you're using intermediaries, and using intermediaries can be used for deaf people or deaf children as well. And we have so many deaf social auxiliary workers that can sign very well. We need to be able to use them as intermediaries with a sign language interpreter. So consider those things, because sometimes deaf people just don't understand the interpreter. It might be a person who has never been to school. So those kind of scenarios we also need to keep in mind, but I do applaud that you're continuing to improve on that. And then with regards to the bills, I want to ask, well, a deaf person asked if it's good to add sensory disability, because sensory covers all your senses, those kinds of disabilities, deaf, blind, etc. And the person was not comfortable because maybe on a higher level, we understand that. But on the ground, people just completely ignore it and say deaf and blind does not fall under sensory disability. And people need to be provided with training so that they know we can use one word, but it encompasses all the sensory disabilities. It might be a long list. So people on the ground, the staff on the ground, need to understand these dynamics. And then I see one slide with regard to the integrated management system. I see the two current testing, the OCJ, the pilot projects, OCJ and DCS. They're testing it. So I want to know, what is the time frame? When are you planning to finish those two that you're currently testing? Then SAPS. Congratulations that you're working with the different NGOs who provide services to disabled people, but I do not see SAPS outreach to educate schools about these three bills. The outreach to educate schools and school children about gender-based violence, I don't see it anywhere, so I would like to see that as well. Please mute.
It's very rare.
Sorry,
also,
can you switch off your mic, please?
Can the mute assist, the host assist to mute?
IT, can you assist us, please?
What do you go 4, 5. 4, 5.
Mandy. Can we
Okay,
get
thank
somebody
you.
to assist us?
Yes,
Sorry,
Chair.
Chair, I'm going
And
to
let
finish
Madam
now.
Helen know that she didn't mute the mic. Please.
Will do, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. You may continue.
Okay, so with justice, you're saying that it starts with information services. Now, before a victim goes into court, they are told about the various services that is available. But I want to know, even before court, even before they get to court, when they get to the police, when they report the case, from there, I don't see a link between the information services and the police, so between SAPS. Is there a link? Because most victims enter the police office or the police station first. So where is the information? Who gives that information? Is it SAPS, or do they wait until the prosecutor comes? Is it only shared before they get to court? So that was my last comment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Hermas.
Very much, Chair. I will be brief. Let me also join those who have appreciated the presentations. I want to join Honorable Dr. Nivo Drugen when she spoke about the TCCs and the need for a greater footprint across the country for TCCs because of the very important role that they play. I had the privilege of visiting the Atlanta's TCC that she was referring to and its distance from other areas. So I want to say that I was very impressed by the way the work was integrated within those TCCs. It is very commendable, and I think we must pause to pay tribute to those frontline workers in the GBV and F sector, because it is obvious that there is a very good working relationship between SAPS, NPA, and the health facilities, in order to, because it's a very important step in the prosecution process and in order for our victims to find justice for the harm that was done to them. What I just wanted to ask is that what we noted in our engagement on that day is that there isn't enough shelters in the area once the person has done whatever needed to be done at that TCC. There isn't enough shelters and social work support for those victims. And I think I saw on one of the slides that they are part of the chain, and they are part of the stakeholders in GBVF, that we must find a way of linking TCCs and making sure that each TCC, which covers a massive area, that there are enough. There should be at least in every ward a few shelters where these victims of gender-based violence can go. And if we can get that right, it will just improve the very good work that is being done presently. I'll pause there, Chair, because much has been said on other areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Abram.
Yes, thank you so much, Chair. I'll be very quick as well. I think much has been covered. Chair, I want to add to others who commended the department. There's so much work that's being done between SAPS and Justice, NPA, and all those stakeholders. We are really impressed. I want to talk first to the issue of Omotoso. And I want to say that our department has been very fair in the whole process, and especially if you compare it to the Bushiri one, as the chair indicated at the beginning, you know, we feel proud of the justice system and the fact that the men, in spite of not having gone to conviction per se, but he has spent an effective 3 years in jail. That shows you that our state takes the issues of gender-based violence very seriously. We really want to commend that. And just on the TCCs, the 6 TCCs that were referred to, I heard that Credit was also counted. One is just interested on the dates. When are these things happening? And thirdly, Velma talked to the issue of DNA. I wanted to talk to that, but now I just want to get an indication of the solutions. Velma wanted the reasons, but what are the solutions that the department can present, or whether there is some kind of assistance to open some doors that they need opened. Lastly, on the judicial education, there's a very tricky part of the gender-based violence pandemic where women are killed in their houses by their very partners. And what kind of education can be given there, for example? Today we wake up in the Eastern Cape with 5 infants aged from 6 months to 10 years, brutally killed by the father together with their mother. So I'm not sure. That's so frustrating, because these are people who are in a so-called safe environment, but in the morning they are all murdered. Thank you so much to Lieutenant for the police report. I'm impressed. Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Makaula. Honorable Kaula. Honorable Kaula, are you still there?
Yes, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Sometimes ngasho nje inkosi ikubusise ngokusilethela leminyango yoyithu, Chairperson. God must bless you as our chairs. Mina la ngizoqala, yes, ngizoqala lana kwa justice. Nginenkinga yamacala othola ukuthi abantu basemaplazini bayahlukumezeka, bayabulawa, babulawe laba abamhlophe bababhidlizela izindlu, bayavula amacala and bantshontshelwa nanemfuyo. Kodwa uthola lamacala avuliwe kodwa uthola ukuthi akathethwa. Ngisazoya kulaba abakasabs ukuthi kwenziwa yini, like njengalapha eDandi nje, Chairperson. Kuneyingane ezafayo la ngena icala kodwa lezo ngane zaziya esikoleni akaze kuboshwe noyedwa umuntu ukuthi abanjani ababoshwayo, mhlambe kuye kubhekwe ibala yini na. Ngidlule lapho, Chairperson, ngibonge kakhulu ipresentation. Harry Smith kunodaba obuhlungu ngabo lwaphuma ngisheme yaphepheni la kutholakala khona ukuthi umkhulu ubhidlizelwe izindlu, watshontshelwa imfuyo yakhe nge-COVID-19, yaweliswa, yahamba yiswa eLesotho, esebenzisana namaphoyisa nencwadi ye-fraud. Kodwa angiboni ubulungiswa lapha, ngibone laba bebalela imhlophe beboshwa. Kunoma kuboshwa bona, ngibona kuhlukumezeka abantu bakithi abamnyama kuba yibona ababoshwayo. Chairperson, okunye okungiphatha kabi yilento yokuthi kunamacala othola ukuthi avuliwe sengikulaba amaphoyisa. Khona ngisho ama-case number. Ngimzwile nje umhlonishwa presenter and ukhuluma kamnandi. azakhothe enze nezibalo. Mina ngokwami ngibona as politician lezi bale eziyi-right kuyena nomunye umuntu mhlambe thina azisebenzele siya kubantu. Lana eCape Town e-108 kunomndeni owashiselwa umuzi. Kwafa abantu phakathi. Umama wakhona kuyimanje akazi ukuthi washona Chairperson. Even nomfana wakhona akaziwa, ingane yakhona ihlala komakhelwane. Uyaziwa umbulali. Icala lavulwa emfuleni police station. Lavalwa umbulali kodwa ukhona. Sahamba saluvusa again kodwa still akakaboshwa umuntu. Sihlalo omuhle ngibuyele lana futhi ngisekuwona amaphoyisa. Ngiyezwa bekhuluma nge-GBV. Kimina angiyiboni isebenza because amaphoyisa imost iyawo asebenzisana together negebengu. Ngibonile nangesikhathi se-COVID-19 ngesikhathi mhlambe kubanjwa labantu abethola ukuthi badayisa utshwala bebebuthatha utshwala bezobudayisa emalokishini nebugwayi ngemali ezishisiwe. Ama-drugs angaka nje emhlabeni amaphoyisa iwona aphakathi even ibhamu njengoba abantu besifazane befa kangaka. Inkinga fanele ilungiswa first emaphoyiseni. Amaphoyisa akhona akasincedi ngalutho and mina ngokwami bengithi angazi Chairperson ngiyabonga ukuhlala kwakho lapha. I think kuyofuneka sometimes government akayibheke lento ye-age ngoba le genge encane yonke yamaphoyisa the most yabo i-corrupt. Ithatha ibhamu egebengwini ibuye izoyisuppplya emphakathini. Mina ngihlala eNanda. Ayikho inhlobo esibhamu esingekho. And amaphoyisa uthola ukuthi asebenzisana nabo noma kufa isigebengu uthola amaphoyisa nawo amasha nazo igebengu. Imoto zamaphoyisa uqobo zilekelela igebengu ukuthutha ama-drugs, even ibhamu, even ukwenziwa ubugebengu. Enye-ke into-ke ngizobuyela khona umhlonishwa lana okwathinta lento yama-satellite. Ama-satellite anenkinga. Khona nje endala elaphayana eNandi ivela police station nenye lapha eLamonti. Lama-satellite kwawona ayinkinga azabe inkinga even kuwona amaphoyisa kuyothola amaphoyisa ngaphakathi mhlawumbe awu-2. Kodwa i-police station akho phone number, akho phone, akho lutho nje and ibugebengu ukuthi even isigebengu siyakwazi ukungena ngaphakathi sibakhombe sithathe ibhamu. Sengibuyele emakhaya. Ngiyabathanda wasemakhaya. Ibhlungu inhliziyo yami ngoba thina sama-politician abantu sisema-parliament through bona. Emakhaya ngiboni bebala. Bangichamuka kuthiwa nje e-KZN Eastern Cape. Emakhaya abantu bakhona bathwele kanzima. Bayareyishwa abantu bakhona, bayabulawa abantu bakhona, bantshontshela imfuyo abantu basemakhaya. Ekugcineni kanti le mfuyo iyabasiza especially imizi eminingi iphethwe womama obaba sebashona or obaba abantu abangakwazi ukuhlala nemndeni bayabaleka mase kuneyingane. Kodwa uthola ukuthi amaphoyisa akasilekelele kunoma lekelele labantu basemakhaya agcina sisebenzisana nazi igebengu njengakamaphumulo. Kwamaphumulo igebengu ezisebenza indawo yakhona abantu bakhona bahlushwela ukuntshontshelwa imfuyo daily. Uthola ukuthi amaphoyisa aphakathi laphayana emakhaya mangabe kukhona umuntu uyareshwa ngabe uyagwazwa ngabe uyezani ngabe oDisemba. Mina ngaze ngibone nelodi iphoyisa even iveni ihamba nje lapha emphakathini. Even nalento kuthiwa i-satellite or mobile ayikho. Chairperson, ake sikubuyeleni lana. Emakhaya kuyareshwa. Emakhaya bayashawa omama. Omama laphayana njoba la sikhuluma ngama-right omuntu wesifazane ukuthi ocansini ufuneka avume yena ukuthi uzoya. Hayi nkani. Emakhaya basezigqila omama zocansi because kumele wathi akasafuni ukuyocansini indoda izomshaya izombulala. Kodwa lamaphoyisa amayefonela emakhaya uthola ukuthi alubanje ucingo. Mangabe kwenzekile alubambe ucingo Chairperson. uzokhomba lethi ayishona stand shona eklindel uyabona sihlalo sami into engiphatha kambi kakhulu yilento yokuthi abantu basemakhaya kanti bona babelonga under muphi government Eastern Cape eMdansana was there kunogogo laphayana okuthiwa bareshwa daily nengane yakhe akho umuntu chairperson obasizayo inhliziyo yami sengakhuluma ngalento sengifana nokuthi ngithela umhlane ngithela amanzi emhlane yodada mina ngokwami nje bengicela ukuthi ake yiyekwe lento lena yokuthi chair kuloko kuthiwa sizokhuluma sicevuza ake khanje kuthiwa nje mamhlangwa honorable ngicela ke siyobona phansi kubuye kuzohlalwa phansi siyiboniwe lezi inkinga esikhala ngazo ngoba ekugcineni sizokhala ngale enye ke ile yokubulawa kwabantu besifazane leyo kubulawa kwabantu besifazane ingeke ikwazi ukuthi sisheshe sinqande kalula chairperson because amaphoyisa ethu abudedengu ngisho ngawafonela manje ngisho emalokishini ke manje uthi phuthumani kune joint lapha livuliwe 24 hours but kulo ndawo ayikho ngisho license bazoya khona bafike bagwazise kuyimanje kunama joint othothi anama license phakathi kwemizi kuyareshwana la abanendaba bona kodwa bebefike bona bebizela ukuthi abazobopha bavala ijoint lama joint nawo awumthelele okunye kokugcina ngci okungiphatha kambi sihlalo wami omuhle
let it be the last one, Honorable
Okay,
Kaula,
Sihlalo.
because we need
Okay,
the department to respond.
Okay, Masuthatha. Okugcina-ke ngifuna ukugqugquzela la sihlalo. Ayikho into ebuhlungu ukubona umuntu wakini ehambe yo reporter ngecala kodwa egcina nakuboshwa umuntu. Nalento yokuthi uma kufa umuntu omnyama why ukuthi lokuthiwa kuyaphenywa kodwa ngeke uzwe ukuthi uboshiwe. Kunama case amaningi uthola ukuthi abantu ababoshwa. Khona udaba nje lobuhlungu lwasemzinto lana amaphoyisa khona emzinto umndeni ushilo ukuthi nanga umuntu useyacula ejointini isibhamu nasi sesikhombisile uthi uyena wabulala ubani behlangana nobani amaphoyisa asemzinto akayi Everolem intombazana ivinjwe isosha 32 October 31 bavizwa isosha la ikhomba ngesibhamu la ishaya lahamba lavula icala Everolem kodwa still lelisosha likakaboshwa mina ngifuna ukwazi chairperson ngempela kwenzakalana eSouth Africa lento iyasihlukumeza thina as politician ngoba labantu bawo basibethu asithandi kubona behlukumeza ngoba ngesikhathi besireportela basuke bethi betshela thina manje amaphoyisa akasincedi ngalutho. Thank you very much chairperson, God bless you ngokusilethela lemnyango and ngisaphinda futhi ukuthi angazi ungenza kanjani phinda uhlahlalo uyibilethe futhi athi ngabe yiwona umnyango osebenza kakhulu.
Honorable Kaula, thank you very much. Honorable Lucas.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think I will also try to be very brief because all of us know that in the afternoon we've got other responsibilities. But it is a fact that we don't have a lot of time to raise our issues. So let me firstly start by acknowledging and also comment the presentations that is quite comprehensive and informative, and it's giving us a bit of excitement if you look into the presentations that is in front of us. Secondly, let me also commend the Justice Department with the fact that we can see that they are striving to equity with regards to making sure that we see women at these platforms at the level where we saw the two presenters. It is something that is important for us because in many instances you see the departments strive for equality without ensuring that there is real equity in terms of the positions that the women are being deployed in. I want to say that all of you are aware of the major project that we undertook on behalf of Parliament in reviewing the Women's Charter. The reason why I say we are getting excited when we see the kind of presentation, whereas there is real provision and there is real development in terms of making sure that the services are available. The issue that I want to raise now is the fact that through our interaction and engagement with the women of South Africa, there are many victims, particularly in rural areas and other areas, where you find that it is not the reality of their experience with the services from the criminal justice system. So I want to ask one or two questions with regards to how do we ensure that all the victims in South Africa is really experiencing the kind of wonderful services that are being at display here in front of us. Implementation is an issue. The attitude of those that are supposed to deliver these services is another issue. And also the orientation of the people that are supposed to deliver the services. I heard about Sajay and the training and the capacitation that you are providing. But who is monitoring that the people that are supposed to, that are receiving this training are supposed to make sure that they deliver that kind of service with compassion, at least with a little bit of compassion to the victims of gender-based violence, particularly the victims of rape. Just this weekend, we had an event in the Overberg where I think it's 1 million women, but it is an NGO that is working with victims of gender-based violence, femicide, and sexual abuse. And the experience of the families that they have put on display there, it is that we don't have a police service or a justice department that is service-orientated, that is client-orientated. And that is the issues that I would want to raise. I must say, I am impressed if I see that there will be a kind of an integrated system of making sure that NPA, police, and the justice can, just by the press of a button, get access to the information about the victim or a case or whatever. I think that is the kind of thing that will take us forward, because in many instances, for instance, there was an example mentioned in the Riffiesonder end where only the night before the victim and the parents have been informed that they must be at a court, and it was about somewhere 40 kilos or 80 kilos, or in Cape Town, I'm not so sure now of the details, but it's a fact that they heard only the night before that they must be at court. And I mean, there was no compassion, there was no sympathy for the fact, or empathy for the fact that they had to now arrange everything to be sure not to be seen as people that are not pitching at court. So what I'm saying is that, yes, indeed, we can see that there is a lot of effort that you have put in, but can the victims and the people on the out there on the ground really have that experience, like what we are, the impression that we are getting, that you are very well geared, but we don't, it is not the reality that the victims are experiencing and the families are experiencing on the ground. For the other issues, I've been covered, so I don't want to say a lot. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Lucas. To the DM of Justice and Police Services, can you please respond to the questions and comments? Ma'am Hlengwa, I didn't see your hand. I counted 7. Ma'am Hlengwa. Yeah, I haven't seen your hand.
But I have raised my hand. I'm
Please,
sorry.
if you're going, can you please ask one question? Because now I want to give time to the department to respond. You can
I'll be doing that. I'll be doing that, my chairperson. Thank you very much. Welcome. Let me welcome the report and all other things. And thank you for the honorable members for their contribution. Mine now is that I've heard chairperson of integration, Baba Umnai, that they have this integration of the department. My plea is that they should add education, because the minor thing are doing, it was there in the school, The education now are having ECT next year. The little boys and the little girls, it started there to abuse them, to make them nothing, leaving them there. When the girl child is crying, is just crying, no one's care. I want them to include to this integration, include education department so that they reach the school. Or yes, Department of Education has had life orientation from primary, but from primary, it is from grade 4 upwards. But we need that education to be started in the ECT. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Justice and subs, can you respond? And I think
Chair, if I can start, just and then the officials can answer their sections. Just two issues. One that Deputy Minister Kekane raised. The National Assembly is going to pass the cybercrimes bill. I think it's on the agenda for next week. And that does actually deal with pornography and intimate images on social media, and the opportunity to get protection orders to stop those being spread around. The bill has been through both houses already. It has to go back to the National Assembly to approve the NCOP amendments. The other was just that there were some positive comments made on the TCCs and then a prosecutor. And I think thank you for that. But also Honorable Deputy Chair of the NCOP, Honorable Lucas's points about complaints about service delivery. That does also happen. And to my mind, the only way one can really tackle it and deal with it is when it happens and it gets reported. You know, that nobody should accept poor service delivery. I just wanted to make those two comments. If I can then just give through you, Chair, to, I think maybe if we go in the same order, Advocate Smith, Advocate Kambula, Dr. Mushweo, and Mr. Munyai, if he has any things to add. But everybody needs to be brief. I think the NA is sitting at 2 o'clock, so we haven't got much time and the police still have to answer. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable. Thank you, Honourable Chair. May I proceed?
Yes, you can proceed.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Thank you, Honourable Deputy Minister as well. In relation to the Honourable Manamisu's question for human capital and the debriefing, yes, we do have the employment wellness program at the NPA, which we utilize for the debriefing of our prosecutors, specifically those ones that are exposing to these traumatic and emotional cases, which is available by means of a call-in program, but also by psychologists that can provide a service when required. In relation to a reward system, we did have the performance management personal reward system. We're now working on team rewards, which is also well, and where we acknowledge good work that has been delivered. In relation to the question from Honourable Nibo Drachen, in relation to the TCCs, and our appreciation is once again extended to a good self and Honourable Hammonds that visited the TCCs, specifically much appreciated. In relation to the question for matters reported at TCCs and what I've explained earlier on, we're working on about, for sexual offences, 57% of those cases are of children as victims. I actually checked the correct percentage would be 57.9 for the 2019-2020 financial year, and 52.4% of the cases being finalized coming from TCCs were specifically on children as being victims. So they do receive that priority focus. However, it should be, and this is our goal, that it should be more improved so that we're going to get a higher percentage of those cases where children are involved to be finalized through the court system. In relation to the question on the TCCs for Atlantis and Swartland area. What I can just shortly answer there is that, yes, that is our focus when we do establish TCCs to have a balance between rural and urban areas and to get as many of these sites available also predominantly at rural areas, closer to hospitals or actually closer to FCS units at hospitals. But remember, we're very dependent on where the hospitals or the clinics are. But that's a process that we work with our crucial stakeholders to improve that services that need to be delivered at those crucial sites. In relation to the DNA testing backlog, I think that SAPS will be in a better position to answer for the reasons for the backlog. So I will leave that question. In relation to the 3 bills that were also raised by Honorable Nivo Drachen, yes, the NPA also provided extensive inputs in that regard. And it's a crucial role for us also to look at when we're talking about interpreters, specifically to look at sign language interpreters. And a very valid point that Honorable Member raised, because in some instances, you need a particular knowledge of sign language because of the particular environment that either the child or the adult victim came from, that can only be assisted with that particular knowledge that a sign language interpreter does have. And we're working with our colleagues in that regard to even improve that system as well. In relation to the point that was raised by Honorable Hammonds for when we do open these TCCs, that there should be a balance between shelters being available in the wards, very valid point. I mean, I can just say that. And here we need to work with, and we do, with Department of Social Development and civil society organizations quite closely, that when we are going to open a TCC in a particular area, that's one of the reasons that we look into the availability of shelters, or what are the possibility of shelters being established close to the TCC if it's not yet in place. Valid point raised, and it's also an ongoing responsibility for us to address that. In relation to the honorable question from Honorable Abrams, in relation to the TCC sites, remember the CARA funding that we received is for the current period, which runs out at March 2021, which is next year, end of March, in other words, in the current financial year. So the goal is for us to have that 5 sites up and running. Why I'm saying 5 sites is because that's our target in the CARA funding business plan. However, we want to add a 6th site as well. This is the one that, as Honorable Deputy Minister indicated, where we're awaiting feedback from DOH. It will either be a site in Gauteng or in the Northwest Province where we will establish that site. So our goal is to work towards the end of March 2021. I think those were the questions specifically, if I'm not mistaken. If there's any other questions that are unfortunately left out, my apologies. But I think those were the questions specifically directed to the NPA. Thank you, Honourable Chairperson and Honourable Members. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No, Chair, sorry, just praise Kambula.
Thank you, DM.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay.
One question that is coming from the Honourable James Silawatwe is it's about how do we sensitize the communities of the basket of support services that we are providing in terms of the sexual offences courts. First is to say that from the time that we commenced with the sexual offences courts project, it has been a ministerial project. So whenever we have, in every year, then we have our minister going out to sensitize the communities, particularly where the sexual offences courts are, launching these courts and ensuring that we sensitize them of the services and that they will be getting from the sexual offences courts. But that's not the end. We also have what we call it the Let's Talk Justice radio talk show, which covers over 70 community radio stations. And it is a talk show that is live, multilingual, and extremely interactive. And it is in those talk shows that we talk about the the sexual offences courts support services model. We also have the schools campaign, and last year we reached 294 schools, and we reached 64,676 learners, where we were talking about all these issues that relate to sexual offences. We do also the community measles and the outreach and other outreach interventions and at provincial level. And in all of those, and particularly in rural communities, because we have a campaign that is focusing on rural communities. And the total of people that we reached in the previous financial year is 15,075,100,000 people through those interventions. So now the second question that I would like.
Chairperson.
Makaula.
Ngiyabonga. Yes, sithando sami. Ngiyabonga. But umhlonishwa lona opresenta indaba zembizo. Akasho ukuthi kuma-rural area ephi ngoba emakhaya
Makaula. They are still responding,
yes,
please.
ma'am. Yes,
they are still responding.
No, Che, akasho ukuthi where about in rural area? Because abayi. Imbizo igcina emalokishini not all over.
Makaula.
Yes, Chair.
They are still responding. Can you leave the speaker on to conclude?
Okay, Chairperson, thank you, Chairperson. We have the whole list of the rural communities that we have visited, and it is in the annual report that our minister tabled in Parliament on the 30th of September this year, and it covers all the provinces. And with the Eastern Cape, it's a number of, it's only just that I cannot mention because I do have the list with me, and all the rural communities are also reflected in the list. So we will gladly provide that information to the Honorable Chair if it is needed. But then we would also like to say that if you can refer to the annual report that the minister tabled, it's listed explicitly there, all the information and all the schools that we have visited. We mention the name of the school and also the location of the school. Now, if I may be allowed to go to the next question, which is coming from Honorable Velma Newart Edrichem. It's about the disability-centric justice system. Whether are we training our people on and conscientizing them on the types of disabilities? Yes, we do that. We started that program a couple of years ago, and we started by doing the disability sensitization workshops, and in these workshops, then we are actually sensitizing our officials to know of the types of disabilities, and also to know how to identify the types of disabilities and how to provide them with appropriate, reasonable accommodation at the service points. And also we ensure that our personnel at the service points do not must know that the disability does not mean that the person is incompetent. It is an impairment, so they need to be treated with respect, dignity as everybody else. So we also then, with the disability community, because we're working very closely with them, we develop the disability support service model. As you know, that with the disability community, there's that slogan that says that nothing about us without us. So even the person who's leading the program is a blind a director, and is working with other persons who are also in the disability sector, who are in the department. And so we have produced that service model. So now it's a matter of incorporating it. So we are slowly incorporating it, let me say that gradually incorporating it into all the support service points that we have at our courts. And we have also developed the Handy Hints, is the Handy Hints information guide, which goes then to the court personnel. And it's all about sensitizing them about all the types of disabilities and ensuring that then we respect their rights and they are provided with the services that they need. But of course, we are not yet there, and it is something that we are working on so as to ensure that we have a disability-centric justice system. Now, there was also another question, which I think that will be the last one for me. And it's a question that talks to how do we give support services? The DM has given a response to this one, but I would like just to add to say that to Honorable Lucas, that it is indeed a challenge to ensure that at every service point, we have people who have the heart for victims of gender-based violence, and ensuring that we have the sensitization and the social context training, embedded in all training programs that we have. So what we have done to respond to Article 13 of the Presidential Summit Declaration, we took the leadership as a department to put together an integrated victim-centric criminal justice strategy. It's at the draft level right now, and it involves all stakeholders, including the civil society. And with that one, we are identifying all the support services from the entry point of the criminal justice system up to an end, and ensuring that we put standards at every service point for every support, for every stakeholder. So we are also in a process of developing the crime victim solution, so that will help us then to collect the data on disaggregated data on crime victims, and also the support services that they are receiving at every service point, so as to eliminate secondary traumatization in the value chain of the criminal justice system. When a person has received counseling, so it must reflect on the screen, so that that information is not information that is asked from the victim. The system needs to speak on behalf of the victim, so as to eliminate those issues of trauma and secondary traumatization. So that is what I would like to say in terms of the responses. I think that those are the 3 questions that were coming from the Department of Justice. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you. Subs.
Chair, can I also respond on the questions raised relating to integrated justice system quickly? Yes, the first question, Honorable Jane Sibuletse, on how credible and reliable is the system. Firstly, I want to make it clear that IJS is not one system. It's multiple systems that are connected through the IJS hub of all those 8 member departments that I have initially mentioned. So the hub is a central messaging platform that allows each department to exchange information. So we continue to modernize case management systems within all these member departments and integrated person management from police, and also to ensure that we modernize in DCS. The other thing is that, just to give an example of the services, under COVID, SASSA was using the PIVA services through the IJS Transversal Hub to combat fraud and ensure that beneficiaries of the social distress grants are verified through the PIVA services. And just to give you the stats, I mean, from April up to end of August, around 2.3 million persons were verified using the PIVA services and the IJS transversal lab. The second question was raised by Honorable Velma about mainly the time frame with regard to femicide watch. And I've said in the beginning that the femicide dashboard has been completed and tested. The only thing that we are waiting, our go live is pending the reprioritization of SAP as release, which has been confirmed that it will be done in February. And that's why we said the 1st of April, the dashboard will be live. And then the other issue was around the court online, when I've mentioned that the OCJ, mainly in Gauteng, piloted the case line, which we term the court online, to modernize the high courts. The first part of that is the portion that deals with case management with the Microsoft Dynamics. Its development, the time frame for the conclusion of the development is the 1st of August, while for the case line continues to be rolled. Currently, it's done the pilot was done in Gauteng. The process underway now is to conduct infrastructure assessment readiness in the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein and other high courts, so that we are able to deploy the case line and court online first component in a stable IT infrastructure environment. And then the other question which was raised, the last one, by Honorable Hlengwa around the basic education. Why is it not necessarily? I'm saying under the IJS member departments, as I've said in the beginning, are those that are in the criminal justice system. We exist to modernize the criminal justice system and integrate the criminal justice system. It's Home Affairs, it's police, again, I'm repeating, Home Affairs, police, justice, correctional service, Office of Chief Justice, legal aid, NPA, and lastly, social development. So the basic education component is linked quite closely to social development. That's why we've got child justice projects that are IJS projects. One of it, the development of child and youth care center application. Of course, the basic education ought to be involved in some of this, but they are not necessarily a member department of the IJS. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. General.
Thank you very much, Chair. With your permission, I just want Lieutenant General Zulu to deal with the first question that relates to the training of FCS. General Zulu.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and all the honorable members in the platform. I will deal with a question that deals with the training of the FCS members, whether it's currently continuing after the minister have appointed, spoke about the appointment of the new recruits who will be working in the FCS. Yes, in terms of the people that work in the FCS, this is more of a specialized unit. So, but because they're going to be an investigators, we first give them a program, which is a 3-month program, which we call it resolving of crime. It's more like a crime detection program where they must be able to start from taking a statement, registering a case, taking a statement, putting the document in the docket, doing administration of the docket, getting relevant evidence, put it in, and then the docket be ready for the handing over to the prosecutor, so that it can then be able to be a channel for prosecution and also be able to give evidence. This is the basic that we give to all of the members that are joining the investigation side, which is detective services. So the 278 that was recruited, 150 of them currently they are undergoing this particular training of phase 1, which is the ROP, which is a 3-month program. The program will be finishing on the 11th 11th of December this year, 2020. And then on the 25th of January, they will have a break. And then on the 25th of January, they'll be now going to the FCS program, which now they'll be dealing with the specialization. Why on the 25th, we are giving them that particular break so that they can be able to link what they've been doing at the academy during that 3 months, go have time to understand practically part of it. And then on the 25th of January, the 150 then will be then joining the program, which is the FCS. And then when the 150 goes to the FCS, we'll have the remaining one, which will be starting with the rock. And then when they are finishing with that one, they'll be go to the FCS. I can say, yes, they are currently, it's undergoing, but they are on the phase 1 in terms of the entry level, if you are going to go into the specialization, which are linked to the to crime detection, which is the first phase, understand the investigation, and we undergo the resolving of crime training. That is what I can respond on that one from the question of the honorable member. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chair, I will quickly deal with the remaining questions within 3 minutes. One, there was a question regarding the testing kits, whether they can be, any kit can be utilized to replace the other one. No, it cannot happen. Each kit has got its own purpose and function, so it cannot happen. And then number 2, whether the guidelines that we set have been distributed to various police stations. If honorable members goes to the police station, they will find them. We believe so, they will find them. And if they cannot be found and we get that particular report, we will act against the station commander because they must be there. Then the third one, it was the issue that related to the ramp and rail, whether the target frame of the 31st of March 2021, is it feasible? Yes, at the time when we conceptualized the report, it was feasible. Little did we know that we will be faced with this issue of COVID-19 as well as the budget cuts. So the remaining 223 police stations, that will not be possible for us to finalize it by the end of the financial year. The issues that relates to satellite police stations. Satellite police stations, by their very nature, they are not fully blown police stations. They are there to ensure that we enhance access to services. We take services closer to the community. And the reason why most of them cannot be fully fledged police stations will relate to the issues of budget as well as availability of personnel. But as and when we are able to recruit people, and that particular area has got quite a number of personnel, we normally turn a satellite police station into a fully flown police station. For instance, in Free State, there was a satellite police station called Bohlokong. It was formalized into a fully blown police station. Then the issues of suppliers, whether we are rotating them. Yes, suppliers are rotated from time to time as per Treasury regulations and instructions. Then who benefited from the contracts? Can we give a breakdown of whether women, children, whatever? I think this one, Chair, I do not have the details. We might respond in writing to this one and give a breakdown regarding the contracts that we alluded to and who actually benefited from those contracts. The re-enlistment of members, whether we are looking at age, yes, indeed, the advert will be very clear in terms of the requirements, and one of the requirements will be the age. We normally indicate that the applicant must be able to render a 10 years pensionable service. So meaning police officers retire at the age of 60. So when you apply, you should be at least 49 to 50. You must be able to provide a 10-year pensionable service. Then Honorable Nieuwenhout Drachen also touched on the DNA test to say what could be the reasons for the backlog. When you go to our presentation, page 25, slide 50, We have indicated a plethora of reasons there. I may not touch on them all, but the issue of lack of internal skilled lab technicians to render services and calibration of instruments is one of them. So there are a number of reasons that we have alluded to there. Then the issue of whether we are prioritizing schools with regard to outreach programs. Yes, through the school safety programs, we are doing so. We have 1,300 schools that we are implementing school safety program. It could be that there will be a need for us to improve in that space. We have taken note of that as a council. Then Honorable Kaula touched on the corruption of our members who are working with criminals. We will not say no. Yes, we do have them. And as and when we have evidence, we arrest them, we fire them from the service, irrespective of who you are and what rank are you having. Once you define yourself outside the organization, then we'll deal with you. And there is demonstrable evidence to that effect. Rural safety, I think she also raised concern about people who are staying in rural areas, Emakaya. We do have rural safety strategy and traditional policing concept where we are using these particular strategies to provide services to the people who are residing in rural areas. For instance, in Eastern Cape, at most of the tribal offices, we have deployed police officers who are providing services to the people within that particular tribal authority. And on the 3rd of December, we will be in Nongoma to launch the traditional policing there. So people residing in those areas are being prioritized. We may not be able to reach all areas, but where we can, we are able to do so. We do have mobile community service centers. It's a mobile van that we give to the police stations, and then they go there out to serve communities in terms of providing those mobile services. I think in short, Chair, that's what we can respond to. If there are questions that we could not respond to, we will be able to respond to them in writing, Chair. But thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you very much, General. Honorable members, I think we all want to rush to and prepare ourselves to get into to our sitting. Thank you very much to the DM, Department of Justice, Honorable Jeffrey, and all the officials from Department of Justice and Police. Honorable members, thank you very much, and the meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.